Hey everybody, welcome back to a show full of interstellar dignitaries, evidently. I've never felt so Starfleet in my life. How cool. Hey everybody, it's X's for Show, your premier Starfleet response show. You can check us out on all the social space at X's for Show. As for me, I'm just on my own comm link at Nico Action. That's NICOACTION. So set your tricorders to sexy.
And I'm just finishing up my internship with Deanna Troy, TK at TK Elemental.
I am your production commander. I am Kevo Reilly, and
Try again, handsome.
I had a bit in everything. Well, I guess my little communication badge just wasn't working. But I'm Jonah, and you can follow me places at Peak Jonah. That's PEAK.
It's very red shirt behavior.
I was about to say, I love that thing in every episode where they're like, number one, Picard to bridge. And like, it is so much tit slapping. It's insane. It's browsers. So, it's Marky Mark and Fear. So I am so excited to talk about the premiere of Disco. What an awesome 2-part premiere. Disco is something where like every season of Disco has that when you first go to a massage parlor and they start touching you and you're like, stop touching me. And then like you relax and then you're like, ooh, touch me. Right. I kind of feel like that's true of most season premieres of Disco. Season 1's premiere is Roof. Season 2's premiere, uneven. But man, they've got the formula down now. I was wholly satisfied by this double dose of Disco. And of course, the greatest Starfleet ever, the greatest Starfleet. I can't even think of the word for some reason. Officer. Thank you. Geez. Starfleet officer of all time, Michael Burnham. Well, if only for the reason that she's technically never a Starfleet officer.
Yes.
So I do just want to say that the most perfect character in the history of Star Trek is with us tonight. And she is everything to me. So I thought she'd stop by. And you never know who might pop in. Maybe one of the most questionable queens this season.
She's a little reflective. Can you angle her a little bit more? I don't know who we're looking at.
Oh, it's Q. Oh my God.
Oh.
You're comparing Q to Q. I love that.
Oh,
I'm
Q.
comparing Q to Q.
Oh, Q. It's so sad that she clearly doesn't know a single Star Trek reference.
Oh my God, but Jackie Cox meeting Q would be everything to me. I would die.
Yeah.
I just watched a clip of Jackie Cox interviewing Sonequa Martin Walls on the red carpet and talking to her about it. And she had the 32nd century Starfleet uniform as a drag look. And Sonequa was like, this is amazing. So good.
How did you guys feel about, I'm telling you, double dose of Disco excellence for me. I was hooked all the way because it's one of my favorite TNGs as well. How did you feel, Teak?
I want to point to something you said immediately, which is like season 1 is not an easy sell. And that's okay. Season 2, I think, is also not an easy sell, but it's easier. And then I think it takes those 2 seasons for the audience to fall in love with Michael and understand that this is kind of the first time we're really doing a... This isn't on...
Is this Disco or The Office? It takes the first 2 seasons for the audience to fall in love with Michael and understand what they're trying to do with this.
Well, no, I think it takes much longer for you to fall in love with Michael in The Office. It really is not till you meet Holly, because you are like, you feel sorry for Michael when Jan shows up, when he starts dating Jan. But it's not till you meet Holly that you understand that like the worst person you know is capable of love and deserves something in return as a result of that. But with Michael,
I really love
second or third by you're not up there. Don't worry.
I love what you're saying though, because this is the first show where it's been about the journey to the captain's chair, not just starting with status quo.
And it is about Michael and Michael's journey to the captain's chair. The other cast is hugely important, but like we don't really get what's going on with Doug Jones. Even when we do Saru's losing of the crazy death thing, ganglia and all that. Even then, we don't really get into him until last season when he adopts his weird, shitty child.
Dougie Jones.
And so, I mean, like, with all of the cast members that we have, they're amazing. I mean, Tilly, like, we do learn a ton of stuff about Tilly, but this is Michael's journey. That's my point. And so by seasons 3, 4, and 5, the start is really, okay, where's Michael at? And what does that mean for Discovery? And I think that has been a really solid formula for the previous 2 seasons, and I think it worked out really well here. I think it was a joy in season 3 when it was like, how are we getting Michael back with the crew? That was really fun.
And then how are we fixing everything else? Like, it was a lot, like, it was solution oriented, and that's always really good for Trek.
And this time around, we're at, like, pretty much an even status quo. Things were tumultuous when we ended, but they settled before the season ended. Tilly decided she would leave. Book knew that he was going to be penalized, but was not, his fate was, he wasn't going to be hung. He wasn't going to die.
Right.
They would see each other again. Starfleet was rebuilding, and it was just, okay, we did it. We can breathe. And I think this really felt like the first time we started a finale having exhaled a deep breath at the end of the last finale. And that, I think, is unique for this show, but a really good place to start. And like I said, I think they've got their formula down with, especially with it being Michael focused.
I think that also accounts for why this premiere felt so grand and cinematic in so many ways. Everything about it, especially the score, was so reminiscent of motion pictures for me.
That was a John Williams Star Wars loving score. I mean, and putting them on the desert planet, we'll get into that more.
The color scheme alone.
Yeah.
Some cinematographer is getting paid good.
You have spent the last couple of months catching up on Disco. You are not fully caught up on Disco. You finished through seasons 1 and 2, and I made you watch Calypso. And now you've jumped directly into this premiere. You're our little guinea pig. You're our little ensign guinea pig.
You are to Star Trek as we are to Drag Race in that way.
But so as that entry point, how you felt about your journey, and how do you feel about this premiere as an entry point for someone for what your experience is so far?
I actually think it's a pretty good premiere because even in the preview of on last season of Star Trek Discovery, it felt like it just gave you the really important tentpoles of, like, this is what happened, this is what they talked about. Saru's getting married, Book did something and, like, fled with the spore drive.
Now that's gone. Whatever it was.
It's fine. We're not really concerned with a lot of it. But I thought this premiere was pretty good. It was really fascinating because it's kind of like I'm taking a peek at the last chapter of a book without reading the middle of it. And sometimes I do that. Not really like the full chapter, but sometimes I will read the last page of a book to see how it ends, because the journey often is as exciting as it is to see what the ending will be. At least that's how I view it. And for people who maybe even never watched Star Trek, you probably could even just start here. Like, the events of season 1 and 2, I don't really think are going to come up a lot. How even in episode 2, they bring up season 1 when Michael joins Discovery, when she's a prisoner and a mutineer in the middle of her sentence, and Saru's talking about, what it was like for having to give her a second chance and what that meant for him. And it's okay, it gives you all that information. Like,
you could have watched that by itself. Yeah.
I think the character that's a human that has a symbiote,
Adira.
I do not think they said their name once this episode.
That is such a Star Trek trap. Yeah.
Adira is really kind of a Wesley pastiche in so many ways, and I really forgive so much of finding them kind of dull a lot of the times at that, because, like,
I have
to be a child genius.
It's somebody's writer's room desire to be in, like, a Grey's Anatomy writer's room, where you can put characters in really easily for I want to do this type of story. I want to do a non-binary teen story. I want Stamets and Hugh to have a child. So I'm putting these characters in because I want to do it. And like that happens all the time on Grace because it's really easy to be like, we just threw another doctor in because when are they not going to need another doctor? So somebody just shows up and you're like, this person is a non-binary researcher and now they're going to talk about that a lot, which is fantastic. So much representation is done through slightly ham-fisted plot movement of just being like, this person's here now and they're going to talk at you, which I would rather have and see things represented than
Not
just
at all.
right, exactly. But there are times when you're like, oh boy, like this character really sure did just show up here and like now
Just start troubling. It's like,
got
hey,
a
this is
lot
my
to say.
Backstory McGee over here just tells their backstory to everybody who walks past.
Hold on, I'm sorry, but then if we're gonna do this, then it's time to do it, okay? And I'm talking to you, all of you out there, trying to push your agenda on us out here in sci-fi. Do you know what I'm tired of? I am tired of your token personality ship. Okay, if you're going to
Hold up
give
now.
a ship
Hold
the
up now.
beautiful no, if you're going to give a ship the beautiful designation of having a personality and a name, and
Oh,
you're
no,
going
this
to
is
make
good.
it an incredible character, and you're going to make that character pivotal to story points throughout the series, you cannot give them 2 lines in the entire episode.
Where was she? I knew
Yes, I
halfway
agree.
through, I knew that was where you were going because I remember you exclaiming at the end of the premiere, "Did Zora talk?"
Did she talk?
She did not talk in the first episode. I noticed it as well. She is my favorite character.
She did not
Uh,
talk, but she had, like you
No,
said,
not in the
3
first
lines like a
episode.
hero.
She in the first episode
The
she didn't
whole
talk.
one?
Yeah, she
Wow.
talks in the second episode. But
Yeah,
it is
But she's like an encyclopedia in the
Yes.
second episode, not like a
Yeah.
lady.
yes. I did feel that it was weird, and I'll be interested to see if they have a plan, because she can't just be another crew member.
If she is,
Well-
they need to think about the balance on how far you can background her,
Yeah,
or it's egregious.
right.
Because that's the thing too. Like, as I was preparing the game that we are going to be playing later in this episode, I'm looking at the memory alpha listing for the ship of Discovery, and I'm down there looking at the crew. Zora's not listed.
Yeah.
Why?
Is she
Does
not
she not
Starfleet?
have a Does she
Yeah.
not have a rank? I thought she was in Starfleet. And so, like, this is such a wonderful thing. This character, and give us more.
Speaking of rank, is Chili still an ensign? Because Saru calls her ensign.
No. Oh my God, did he
Yes,
in the premiere?
in the second
Oh,
episode, he calls her
Oh.
ensign.
I 100% believe you, but she's definitely a lieutenant. I
Hey.
think I did hear lieutenant I think I heard Vance call her a lieutenant. But oh my God.
I just want to point out, you can never trust what Action Saru says. He's always just trying to get into the heart of the fight, you guys. Action
Well-
Saru.
And it's like I pointed out, since Nan left the ship and now Booker's on a prison camp or whatever, who's the chief of security on the USS Discovery?
As Kevo told me, look over there!
Look over there.
I'm pretty sure it's the ferocity of Michael
Saru.
Burnham's perfect dreads.
It's
Oh my God, yeah.
Her braids.
They're
are every-
braids.
yeah,
Uh,
her perfect braids.
Isn't it Linus?
Oh my God, I hope so, but it's not listed as Linus, but I rescind any complaints if it's Linus.
I
it's-
offer to be Reese's butt protector.
I was gonna say it's Linus or Reese,
Reese is the cute little one I'm thinking of.
the Asian one.
Yeah.
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 Adorable young man. I
Yes.
just think he's so sweet.
He's gorgeous.
And he has a friendly face, which,
Yeah.
as much as I love Disco, this is the unfriendliest fucking looking crew since Scotty and McCoy were the sex symbols.
On the
This is-
one hand, yes. On the other hand, they are so friendly in presentation.
Oh, for sure. And they're all very attractive. I just
they're
want to be very
gorgeous.
clear about
But
that.
I mean, like, you know, like Awoshikan and what's her name who sits next to her? Whose name I
Demeter.
always
Demeter?
forget.
Detmer.
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 Are such loving friends. Like the fact that in the middle of crises all the time, they're constantly like, just take a deep breath, girl. You're going to be okay. Just focus. Like everybody is very sweet to each other, and that's another one of the things where I'm just like, the writing team just decided they were going to write the show that they were going to write. Nobody previous to this had ever been super nice to each other on a bridge and bridge crew in Star Trek history. It's always just like, even if you're a Janeway who is a nurturing person, it is always like, life is hell, suck it up, you can do this.
I mean, and let's be realistic. The showrunner is a lesbian. What did you think was going to happen?
Exactly, yes.
Her name is literally Michelle Paradise. That is the warmest lesbian name I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah. And, while we're talking sort of about that, I mean, I have a million jokes I want to make, but like, one of the things that I'm really excited about is Kebo and I are doing my ever first adult watch of TOS and his first ever watch of TOS. And at this point, we're like literally almost done. We're 2/3 through. The hardest part is all of the really boundless, problematic sort of like racism, where openly the ship's doctor tells the Vulcan member of the fleet that they truly have bad blood and that their blood is bad because it's alien blood. And if maybe his blood wasn't green, he would know what it was like to be a person. And like,
Bones is terrible.
Bones is inhumanely cruel to anyone who isn't human.
God, no wonder they gave the role to Carl Urban.
Yeah. And then every one of them, because, he has that sort of smarmy, but also sexy and funny. And then he plays it really well. And then the next level of it is every woman is an object to the point where there is like a 6-minute teaser that is just them talking about and ogling all of the women at this belly dancing club.
There's a misleading headline that's going around saying how recently Shatner said something that would have Roddenberry would be rolling in his grave because of current Trek, and the actual core of what he said is because Roddenberry had this like stance against
bridge fraternization.
Between like interpersonal drama and fraternization being any element of Star Trek. And yes, exactly. I balked at the idea, and I had people being like, no, when did Kirk... I have literally just watched an episode where he hit on a lieutenant, because in the Mirror universe, that version was trying to seduce him. And so in this one, he's like, maybe we can be friends. And like,
I mean, Roddenberry was also fully... Sorry, Roddenberry was also fully alive for the premiere of TNG, where Troy and Riker are immediately in love.
And, exactly. So he
psychically commenting to each other about it. Yeah.
And Picard and Bev.
Yeah.
Like, it's...
That one I will give them credit for was actually more subtle. That was a huge will they, won't they for 7 seasons. But it turns out they did.
But it implied that it was there in the first place.
It definitely did. It definitely implied it very... I felt very subtly, because a big part of it was maybe she hates him because he is the reason her husband dies. But again, regardless of whether or not it was romantic, that's personal fraternization.
Yeah.
That's a problematic, like, could get in the way of doing work because we have an emotional connection. And Roddenberry was alive for all that. So Shatner, thank you for pioneering some stuff, but we don't need your comments all the time.
Well, I do like that he said that space equals death. That was cute. So,
Yeah, that whole space quote was fucking wild, and
intense. Yeah. You saw that too?
Yeah. Yes, wild shit. He's a fun guy to keep around if you just accept that he's your old racist grandpa.
Denny Crane.
Yeah. And
oh my God, Denny Crane.
Denny Crane.
You gave your racist grandpa a glass of wine, a magazine he likes, and whatever dog that likes him the most, you put it on him, and then you just don't say anything else. He's fine. He's good.
You leave hot older boyfriend alone. So
for one of our Star Trek episodes, I promise I will make a Denny Crane compilation to open our episode with. Denny Crane. I pretty colors.
You gotta intercut it with some really stupid Shatner moment, Star Trek Shatner moments.
Oh my God! Yes.
As long as Shirley Schmidt is constantly cut in, looking angry at everyone.
Speaking of people who should be starship captains,
100% admirals.
Where is Candice Bergen's Star Trek? Her and Judith Light, right?
Well, I mean, yes, 100% you nailed it, but I will not accept anything but Janeway first. I need to see Admiral Janeway in action, and then we can open the floodgates.
I just, one of the things that I think is also really funny. So the whole reason I brought up TOS is because, I feel like TOS does really ridiculous things. And I'm telling you right now, they would have done Tuvix. Y'all can fuck yourselves.
Oh, 100%.
It would have been McSpock.
Yeah.
Or Spakoy or something. Or, bonks or something, and it would have been terrible and absolutely problematic.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how they would have found a way to add in blackface, but it would have
Or
happened.
Happle?
What?
You're saying
Uhura and
TOS?
Chapel.
Oh, I love that. That
Ooh.
would be because
They also would have done the Warp 10 lizards.
oh my god, yes. Well, and that's something else. I was saying to Kevo, because Kevo was singing "I'm Every Woman" while TOS was on, and I was like, oh, it's true because look, this one actress is literally every woman
Every
that is in
woman.
Uhura.
Yep.
So I think one of the things that I think Disco does better than any other Star Trek is it's brave in a way that's not stupid. Something that, like, I think it was cutting edge sci-fi to see these guys talk like men in a way that was kind of reserved for sailors, but we were transposing it to space. So this idea of the exploration of the tropes that define sci-fi, things like War of the Worlds, aliens, things like that, were being pushed a little bit further by the encapsulation of humanity in these private moments. But then everything that balanced it is so dumb. And in the original series, everything they fight in that first 2 seasons is a god. It's a literal supernatural god. It has superpowers. It can do magic. They have to leave the planet because the creature's a god. Like,
Everything is either gods or hitting on native women, and it is weird. It's just, I really cannot shake the feeling the more TOS that we watch, how much it reminds me of Disco, and how much I feel like Michael Burnham really, really was meant to be Kirk.
Yep.
And I don't know if Paul Wesley had played Michael Burnham instead, if people would have thought, oh man, Spock secretly had an older brother who was just like Kirk, and he's super cool and badass, and he was on this super awesome ship, and they did badass things all the time, like
and he's
go to
gonna
the
get
Mirror
real
Universe,
buff soon.
and
Just
it's got like
hang
a
in.
spore drive that's awesome. But instead, it's a black woman, and it's this weird lanky dude, and it's queer
And
people.
that gay
and I
dude
feel-
from Ren.
And I feel like that is why. I feel like because it is a black older sister instead of a cool, awesome older brother, I feel like that is why. And I can't shake that feeling. And the more and more we watch TOS, and the more I rewatch Disco, yeah, it's janky and weird sometimes. And yeah, but it's obnoxious that Michael knows everything. She's the goddamn lead. Do you watch television, Tamar? Like, have you seen the Star Treks? Are you aware of these things?
Let me introduce you to protagonism.
Well, it's also-
she's not perfect all the time either. None of them ever were. Like, it's up and down. It's peaks and valleys. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're 100% right. First off, like, the start of the show is the whole point is she's terrible at being in Starfleet to the point that she goes to prison.
Well, hold on.
No, that's
No.
A little bit.
Philippa should have let her cook. She was right. They should have done it. It
Wait.
would have been fine.
She
That says a
was
lot more
right.
about
You can't-
Starfleet.
You actually can't use that phrase when it comes to Philippa and members of this particular bridge
Yeah.
crew.
True.
This
She will
particular
cook
bridge-
them.
She would cook this one.
You know,
True.
that's the
And she did.
People have
Earned.
different strengths. Michael is incredibly, the whole point is if Michael could live up to her potential in following Starfleet rules and law, she would have been in the captain's chair, through promotion really quickly. Because she's amazing. She's really competent, but she's really headstrong and she can't follow a chain of command. And sometimes that works to everybody's advantage, but sometimes it's a real problem. She goes to prison for it. That is how the show starts. And that's, that is her character flaw. Other characters are flawed in different ways, including that they don't know everything. They're maybe not necessarily as smart, but they could be great leaders. What do you got?
A way that one of the people in this image is flawed is the guy on the right makes really gross movies.
Oh my god, favorite character. Jonah, are you aware that the person on the right is director David Cronenberg?
And do you know who David Cronenberg is?
Like, remember
The
Rick
Fly.
and Morty when there's the Cronenberg verse? Because it's based on the concept of, like The Fly, like gross,
Horrible
movies,
flesh
like,
monsters.
legendary film director, like Wes Craven levels of legendary. This
I
guy.
thought it was just some weird old dude.
No,
Yeah,
to
me
be
too,
honest.
for a really long time.
no, it's definitely David Cronenberg.
Because you know, like a collection of like weird older white men who kind of just like weird things.
Yup.
It
Like,
feels
don't
like
really,
they wanted
harm
David
people.
Lynch,
And it's what
Oh,
they got.
but David Cronenberg said yes.
I said no.
I
Is
said
this
there
the
is
first
next
time
to
he's
zero-
been on a TV show since Alias?
Was he
No.
on Alias? I forgot about that.
Yeah, he when she
That's
in the third
Wait.
season, when she can't remember any of her memories as Julia, they go to David Cronenberg, who has a bunch of psychedelics and a machine that allows her to go through all of her Julia memories.
It is one
How
of my
many
favorite things in that season.
Yeah, me
How
too.
many
It's-
directors acted on that show? Because then
Yeah.
that's also Tarantino.
Yep.
And then
Weird.
let's take this all a little bit further. Tarantino almost did a Star Trek.
Yeah.
Cronenberg did this.
And Lynch almost did a Star Wars.
J.J. Abrams,
really.
creator of Alias, did Star Trek.
Yep.
So like
Wow.
it actually is a very connected thing.
Yep.
You know, oh, by all means, I heard.
Take
the
me
press.
back to your point. I believe we know that everybody at the time felt they were very progressive. Letting Ahura and God Shatner, Kirk, Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
having them kiss, monumental for the time, unheard of. So like, while we see things that were like, man, culturally that this was the norm.
It also gave us Whoopi Goldberg, so that's just, you know.
So you can take that under your tube and store it.
That we see stuff in TOS that were like culturally that was the norm is horrifying, and seeing it just like be the standard and nobody comments on it is really rough. But we get these moments where a sci-fi dreamer's ideals of what the future would be like, and that there would not be taboos around romances between the races. They felt that was they executed that, and they felt that was really progressive. I think that we will look at things like Adira being like, I think I'm non-binary 400 years from now, when I feel like that's a conversation that kids have in that exact same way on shows that take place in present day. So it's going to be a little bit like, I love that they did it. We still don't have enough of that in television. In 40, 50 years, we will look back on that and say, man, they really like were going in the face of a lot of pressure to not have non-binary characters or characters on who are, you know, trans. And we're also going to look at it and be like, it wasn't like the best. Like compared to how we see that happening in media 40 years from now, I think we're definitely going to look on it and see the value of what they did, but also see like this was not the best.
Well, you know,
Oh, can I just quickly say that I love that her name is Trina. I know it's Tarina, but her name is Trina,
Trina, she a baddest bitch.
and I just hope she raps.
I heard you used to fuck with Trina.
you know, one of the things, I just rewatched all 4 Doctor Who specials for a show that I'm doing on Tuesday. And one of the things that I was reminded of, and that I felt at the time as I was watching it, you know, I really felt like the middle one of the David Tennant specials, not my favorite. And frankly, the CG, a lot of it, I think it is going to date itself very quickly. But I really, really, really applaud so much of the effort, because... And as you were saying that, one of the things that flashed in my mind was, I feel like it is better to know you are going to appear dated than not try for something bold, brave, and fresh at all. If Russell T. Davis hadn't written a story that involved David Tennant and Catherine Tate growing giant and it kind of looking a little silly, now you have people who are into graphic design who are looking at that and saying, I can do it better. And now we're going to have people growing these things. Yes, maybe some of the progressive stuff on Disco and other things can be really ham-handed. But instead of pushing back, what we need to say is, how can we be evolving it better? I think it is important for them to be trying to do something amazing. And in 20 years, have it be like, that dated itself very quickly.
And I think
Then-
that's what happened with TOS. It
Well-
was really, go ahead.
And I want to kind of add to this conversation, because I do agree that's what happened with TOS in some ways, but there's better and worse ways to do it.
Yeah.
We're doing this really complex watch of the Miamiverse, and there's only one, which is Golden Girls, Empty Nest, and Nurses. And the only thing I would add to it is I would love to add a
Are you
quick...
not counting Blossom?
So I was gonna
That's
make
in
a
universe.
Blossom reference. I was gonna make a Blossom reference, but then I decided not to because when you were saying about how like young people have those conversations, I was gonna be like, and you know why Blossom should absolutely have been on a starship. So that's a dream. That's a dream, Sophia.
Oh, okay.
But that's an amazing catch. It's also created by one of the writers of Golden Girls.
Also, Maya Bialik for a captain.
Oh my God, Maya Bialik for everything in my life. If she just told me what to do, I would never be sad again. So when we think about shows that handled progressive topics, there's a really famous episode of Designing Women called It's Killing All the Right People, where series creator and writer Linda Bloodsworth Thomas, her mother received a blood transfusion that was actually, unfortunately, HIV positive, and her mother became very ill very quickly and passed away shortly thereafter. And one day when she was visiting her mother in the AIDS ward in the late 80s, as she was walking through the hallway, she heard two older white women passing by and said, "That ward, well, at least it's killing all the right people." And it inspired her to write an episode about a young gay man who the Sugar Baker team all loved. And he was like, "No, I'm going to die of AIDS. I'm going to die." And they're like, no, we'll find a way to beat it and you'll be strong and everything will be great. And he's like, "No, I'm going to die. And you can either plan my funeral or you can let me die without dignity because no one gives me dignity." And it's one of the most powerful progressive things I've ever seen in my life. Contrastedly, I don't think Alan Arkin can do anything wrong. Adam Arkin, sorry. I was going to say Alan Alda. I don't think Adam Arkin can do any wrong. I think he's a brilliant actor. His character on Nurses is a very similar thing. He finds out that he has AIDS, not HIV, and is late stage and doesn't have much longer. And because it's sort of like a straight person being like, "I wonder how this happened to me," it's decidedly unpowerful and doesn't stand the test of time.
It affects its efficacy, yes.
And I think one of the things that certainly hurt the ability of Star Trek to be progressive is this is within a decade of the Jeffersons. This is within a decade of Black excellence on television. And the conversation that we're referring to as being progressive for its era is held by three people who always held the power. And when you have all the power, it's a lot easier to be brave. And I think that is part of what occasionally slows down the modernist progressive takes that Star Trek could have had. It's the container, I think.
And I think part of what I'm saying is like, I think that problem is kind of still happening for Star Trek in that if they were really going to do it, they would have found a way to be like, imagine how non-existent the problem of discovering that you are non-binary would be for people of Earth 400, 500, I forget how long, late it is. It's 1,000 years in the future. Well, I guess, yeah, she's 1,000 years in the future. She's from there. Yeah, so imagine how different it would be. Rather than having her have a very similar conversation to one that we would see on a modern television show, they could have actually found a way to explore what the future of, changing the gender binary is, and that would have been really brave. I think to have the conversation that they had is really good and really important, but it's also just like, what's going beyond and especially in the world of sci-fi where we're always asking how is the future different. In the future, your professional businessmen who secretly run Starfleet but don't have a title wear a tie that looks like a clip-on but somehow isn't because it's got a big metal knot. What is this outfit, guys? You need to explain to me how the tie works. I love it, but it also kind of looks like a clip-on, and I think we all know that. Space Bolo!
My not exactly defense of the behavior or practice. I hear everything you're saying, and I completely agree. I even though feel like there are so many things on TOS that have that same cadence of there were things that you would think they would have been more aware, wouldn't need the same "I am non-binary and these are my pronouns" walkthrough. Yeah. But in that regard, it almost cutely makes it like part of the trappings of Star Trek. We're very aware that we are incompetent, and we're going to just keep being incompetent forever because that's part of who we are. It's not okay. It's not an excuse. I find it amusing in that regard, where it's like you're just gonna keep doing this.
Yeah, and I think it's the first time we see somebody take a social issue of the year 2020, let's say 5 or 6 if it happens soon, and really explore it in a way that honors the fact that the story is taking place hundreds to 1,000 years in the future. That's going to be a time where we're like, oh, somebody really got Trek. Somebody who grew up on this show, somebody who read Chris Claremont comics showed up and just wrote the future of Chris Claremont comics is something that like we see in certain writers of the X-Men, like Grant Morrison. And I think
Steve Orlando.
And somebody has yet to show up for Star Trek who you just feel like they got it and then they took it to the next level. They asked the question, okay, but where can we go from here? We have a lot of people who show up like Michael Chabon, who, fantastic writer, clearly grew up with Star Trek.
But he's an everything writer, and his excellent skills, like he does every sci-fi franchise he wants. Like
I also just need to stop real quick. Chabon? Really?
Oh, yeah, I've always said Chabon, like somebody's trying to have trouble pronouncing Chobani.
I hope it is Chabon, and I hope I am wrong, because I love when that happens to me.
It is Chabon.
That's insane.
Like rhymes
I've heard
with
multiple
Chabon.
people. I've never heard him say it. So I'm not arguing you. I'm just saying I hear a lot of people get it wrong, and that makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem. He's a great example of somebody who like I think is fantastic, but even he like he's a good idea person to be like, okay, but what would be the craziest thing that would happen? Machine, synth intelligence evolves so far that they literally go outside of space and time. Totally, I can imagine that that's really true. But what are the actual implications in society and conversations that two people would have in a world where that artificial intelligence will get to a place where it's where it transcends space and time? And that's where like nobody is really willing to write in Star Trek who comes to Star Trek. And I think we're getting there. I think these people that we see are getting there, but it's still not quite happening. And it is, you're right, Kevo, it is kind of the tradition of Star Trek to be like a little scared to swim over to the deep end.
When I was in high school, when I was a little girl, when I was in high school, I was in theater class, and I was lucky enough that you like had to be in theater X number of years to become a student director. And my high school worked with my unique student needs, and I got to be a student director my senior year. And that meant that once a week you were in charge of the improv. And I had been really working on this improv idea for weeks. I was very proud of it. And I get into class that day, and I'm like, all right, guys, it's my day to do improv. And I picked my team, and I said, okay, Malika and Joe and Sean, the three of you, whatever this means to you, you're in a blender. Go. And I thought this was genius. And my theater professor fell out of his chair laughing. And the three of them had no idea what to do until Malika was like, ow, there went my feet. Ow, and now I don't have ankles. Oh no, knees, they're gone too. And she just...
And she tried.
She did.
She's commit to the bit.
Well, and then Joe and Sean just kept screaming that she was being chopped to pieces, and I kept being like, guys, you're in the blender too. And they were like, no, we're safe. So
they said
men, right? I kind of feel
audacity.
like that is sometimes what Star Trek does. Sometimes Star Trek is like the blender, and like everybody's like, "Oh, my ankles." But
you're saying you should be writing Star Trek.
I really am. I also think David Lynch should be writing Star Trek. Something that we have been noticing as we rewatch TOS is all of the weird isms of TOS are like they're weird things in the 1960s that make us go, "Oh, that's cheap." But when Lynch does them for a lot of money, even when they still look cheap, we're like, this is 1991. And this is excellent.
So many weird things, like Nico was talking about earlier, where like it's always they're fighting gods and like beings from other planes of reality.
Everybody's a doorknob.
there's this weird sense on the spaceships where it almost feels like the spaceship has the same sense as the Black Lodge, where it's this in-between space, and then the planet is another plane of reality. And like literally the electricity sound from Twin Peaks constantly is used on TOS. I would be shocked to learn that David Lynch did not watch TOS in his early 20s and was not heavily influenced by it. If he's not, then it is all just part of the black magic, and they are tapping into the same vein, because it is insane how many parallels there are.
And in as far as that goes, I love that we're seeing Star Trek get to come due on that, because one of the things that I think is tough when you're talking about the future, right? Like my favorite thing in all of Disney World aesthetically is Tomorrowland, because about 30 years ago they committed to they committed to the future that never was. I think Tomorrowland at night is the coolest looking thing in the world. The green, the blue, the purple. God,
They had so much hope for us.
But that's the thing. Tomorrowland,
it had nothing to do with hope for us. That's what he's saying. It was a retro future idea of what we used to think the future was going to be.
Yep.
Not for Tomorrowland. It's an imagined.
It's the tomorrow that never was, forever today. And it's like my least favorite aesthetic thing in all of Disney World? Future World. I mean, Epcot is like my favorite park, and like every minute I spend in Epcot are some of the best, like literally some of the best memories of my life are in Epcot. But it's actually appreciating the architecture of World Showcase and the ideas of Future World more than the architecture of Future World, because Future World is always so concerned with what a cool new car looks like that it wound up accidentally making Test Track look exactly like Tron. And
they are updating Test Track again for like the third time in 5 years because of exactly what you are saying. Yeah.
And I think, Jonah, your generation of actual scientists, of actual engineers, like, it's got to be hard seeing that they thought 200 years from now, the ships would literally run on analog tape in like TOS. So how do you feel about the representation of science in Disco?
It's all science. I will say, sometimes I'm like, they just like to throw buzzwords. That's fine. You can just do whatever you want. None of this makes sense.
Fibonacci sequence.
It's like that scene from the Halloween episode of Community where Troy's telling his horror story and they take the medicine. How medical.
It's some of the stuff, there really isn't a basis of actual science. They sometimes are just like, the dilithium crystals, and they do this, and it's like, did you see the residue? And it's like, no, like nobody had like chicken pox or anything, so I don't think those are there. That's literally what they say.
Or just stays through the wormhole.
But sometimes they do like actual real science. Like the second episode, they were talking about electromagnetic waves, and those are real. That's stuff we experience ourselves in our world. And how do you affect those? What does that mean? And I was even initially drawn to Discovery because a lot of it is because Discovery is a science vessel. So a lot of it is just science, though the science takes the ancillary part, the backseat to the talking about before, the interpersonal drama between everybody and the stakes of whatever they're doing. It is really interesting what they're trying to go for with a show that's trying to push forward, okay, we're in the future, we're in sci-fi, we can kind of do whatever we want, but we should still give let's give the nerds something to like do. Let's give the nerds something to memorize of like when they're playing Star Trek, when they're fantasizing, they can say the real things. That's what I think this show is for. I also so I was talking. It's just very funny that this happens a lot where I happen to think of something and I'm doing something, and it like just happens to pop up wherever. This happened with Lower Decks, and now it happened with this. So I was fascinated with the idea of, okay,
the progenitors.
the progenitors, but even just specifically, just how do humanoid species, like, can every humanoid species have a child with any other humanoid species? And the answer is yes. And I was like, okay. And as I was doing my research, literally they were talking about the progenitors, about how that they created life and they created every humanoid that we see was created by the progenitors, and that's why part of why people like Spock and Deanna can exist, because the humanoids biology is enough that you can be kind of like ligers, but they're not like sterile in that regard. But it was just very bizarre that I happened to just researching this all on my own, nothing to do with Discovery. I had no idea what the season would ever be about, and that's what the plot is. The plot is literally about the progenitors.
I was only disappointed it wasn't about the Borg, but it's fine.
Teak, mute.
Oh, Teak, mute. Okay.
Yep, put a pin in that because we're gonna talk about that, the what's not there, in a second. But I will say, the progenitors, the panspermia theory, this episode from TNG, since the first time I saw it, and I distinctly remember I was like 11 years old, maybe 12 years old. I remember where in the house I was when I watched this episode. It's not one of my favorites, but it was one. Like, Jonah, like you, at the time, I was like, this is a really weird thing that because I think I remember I had just found out that like a mule can't reproduce.
Mm-hmm. Mule's sterile.
Yeah. And I had just learned about things, like ligers and things that like barely make it into being born, for hybrids that barely make it into being born. And this episode came out, and I just remember thinking, like, it is really weird that they are all bipedal, have two eyes, that is such an odd thing to not address at any point. Why is nobody like, why do we keep going to worlds and everybody is vaguely humanoid? And I saw this episode, I was so floored by it. And I completely understood, which I have no forgiveness on this point for other things. I understood why they never brought this back up. I understood why it was such a can of worms for episodic Star Trek that could barely maintain serial plot lines and meta plots. And then when they could do that, I got why this wasn't one of them, because there was so much stuff to get through. But this and Where Silence Has Leased, the giant face in space, are the two things. The third one from TNG is the conspiracy with the vaguely trill, horrifying little things.
The butt bugs? I can't.
Butt bugs.
And the head's exploding?
Yeah.
Didn't happen. Never
no, that
happened.
absolutely did happen and needs to get done. That's what I thought that's what I thought the conspiracy in Picard was. I was 100% certain that's what it was. So the first one is Face in Space. And Face in Space is absolutely something Discovery should have brought back up, because that is exactly their shit. And we need to address that again. Why is nobody panicking about that at all times? But then thing number two is this. This is one of the craziest things for Star Trek to announce, is accepted stuff that the Cardassians were there for, that the Vulcans were there for, that the Romulans were there for. Everybody knows that there's a progenitor species.
Phaedra Parks was there for it.
She was gonna traitor them. She just thought, I'm gonna kill him.
I do too much. Because they do too little.
She looked at them and said, "Y'all got any boiled eggs?"
Yeah, boiled eggs. Boiled eggs, anyone?
Oh,
but
not my progilicious.
Not my progilicious.
This has driven me insane that this never came back up, and I have to say the last one. Somebody needs to bring back Species 8472. Species 8472 is insanely important.
Every time we talk about Star Trek, you bring them up. I
know. Shut up.
You shut up.
You're the one.
You're the one. So, several fun things about that episode in the first place. One, it was a Frakes.
Yep.
Always fun to know. I almost brought this episode up on our first ever coverage of Star Trek on this channel, when we were covering the Picard finale, because I was thinking about what was the closest episode to where the Picard finale was that was having its 30th anniversary. And it was specifically this one. And, this one really is something that stuck out in so many people's minds. And the fact of the matter is, a huge part of the reason that it existed is because writer Joe Menosky like everyone else, like everyone has already brought up, has been asking the questions. How are these babies possible? How is everyone bipedal? How does everyone have 5 fingers? How everyone have 2 eyes? Like, this is nuts. And so they just wanted to bake something in, just a nice little thing. But then it really was something that I think stuck in people's minds and was such a iconic concept that it exactly was bizarre to never touch on it again in any way, shape, or form. Nico.
And I just want to, like, in terms of never touching on it again, I think they look unbelievably like changelings.
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought.
And you
What?
think about what
They look like the changelings.
and when you think about what the
Ooh.
changelings are, formless creatures that want to
Yep.
create limitlessly.
Yep.
And you think it's almost like the changelings and the progenitors are the same thing, but the changelings believe that they should be able to keep it in the hive mind, and the progenitors believe it should all be capable of sustaining individual life and thought.
I mean, you could, like, there are so many ways you could make that. I've thought about that before too, like the idea that this would be like a group of changelings that decided
yes.
they should no longer just be liquid, and there was something really stagnating about that, and that the only way to really evolve would be to,
babies.
you know, be
Or maybe
right.
changelings evolved from the progenitors or
Yep,
something.
yep,
Like, there
something
are
like
a
that.
lot of
Yeah.
options.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I will say, that was a really big, I hate to say disappointment about Picard, was the idea that the changelings just became this sad kind of subservient to one broken Borg queen, which I will also say Picard did not do a very good job of explaining, like, that's it, that the Borg are just done, I guess.
Well, I would like to point out that the Borg are never really done. If
I know.
you believe in your heart enough that
if you
Hugh
clap-
Borg, Kevo, if I clap,
Oh.
if I clap hard enough, Kevo, can you bring a Borg back to life who never should have died?
Pull her back.
Will this help?
We're,
I was
we're
trying to
getting flashes.
joke. No, it's just Sela.
It's just Commander Sela.
Oh my god.
I don't know why your dad got a Commander Sela action figure. Jonah, one day you will learn about the time displaced Romulan half daughter of Tasha Yar. Yeah. Yep. That face is exactly correct. I hope that's the same face that you made earlier today when I tried explaining the Kelvin timeline to you. But this is but we also do have Hugh.
It's our
I was
baby.
so stoked that you have a Hugh, and I'm just gonna pretend that he is still alive, just like what's his name? Who I love.
7 of 9's baby boy.
Yeah, and just like Shaw, they're all alive, and they're a great big
Icheb,
Borg
Icheb.
family.
Icheb.
Icheb and Hugh
forever.
and Shaw are
Icheb-
all alive with Borg implants.
Yeah.
And what's her name? Scarlett Palmer's.
No,
Oh
we're not,
yeah.
we've already talked about the link to I almost said West Side Story. That's
Reba?
not no, not that one either. What we've been watching. Twin
the middle-
Peaks.
Oh, Twin Peaks, yes. The middle child from Reba is what's her name? Naomi
Well,
Wilder.
Twin Peaks has
Oh,
a
that's really
connection
funny.
with
I
West
know
Side
her
Story,
mom.
Do you? That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, well, she is the
Not
This is very
Naomi,
off the
not
rails.
Naomi Wilder. Naomi Wilder's mom on Voyager. Not
Oh yeah, no, we knew that.
yeah,
we knew
You
that.
know Mrs. Palmer's?
no, not
Mrs.
her.
Palmer's.
Yeah, no.
Hey, Mrs. Palmer's.
Can I talk about what I think the only, I guess, the weakest part so far that I
Let's
found
not do.
Yeah.
is
Get
I
back on
don't,
subject.
and maybe it's because we haven't delved too much into them yet, but Mole and Taka, what is his name?
Lock.
Maul and Locke.
That dumb.
Locke. Maul and Locke aren't. They're like, I get the idea is like Thelma, Bonnie and Clyde. I would say Thelma and Louise, but they're not both women.
No,
Bonnie
go
and
for it.
Clyde.
Thelma and Louise.
Thelma and Louise, well, lesbians. And
Total lesbian.
part of the, I guess, problem is that I'm not really finding a connect to them is twofold. One, because it's still so early on and we don't really know enough about them. That's actually I should say it's threefold. That's the first thing. Second thing, it feels like they're winning by luck. Like they don't feel like the threat.
Yeah, how can they have been so off the grid, but this unbelievably potent? How?
It's not that. I'm going to make a reference to Legend of Korra. It's not that Kuvira wasn't a threat, but you go from Zahir, right? That's Zahir. Zahir to Kuvira,
You go
and
for
it's
my
a little.
husband. Yes.
It's a little. Okay, we went from someone who was like to oh. That's how I'm kind of feeling about them. 3, and this is just my prediction. I think they're only vested in the equipment, not just for the money, because they want a baby. They're doing full magicians, the couple.
Oh God! God, no! Oh, they do. They want a baby. Oh no!
They want a baby, and because they're not. That's why they want to change some genetics to.
Oh, you're so smart.
That's what I think. We don't actually have a lot to base.
This, for the record, is the guy who plays Locke. So I get wanting a baby with that. This guy is actually in one of the first episodes of Disco when Burnham is on the prison transport. He's one of the people that's on it, and so this is him without makeup. And they love doing this where they can either bring you back with or without prosthetics, and I appreciate that. I'm sad we're not going to see more of this guy without prosthetics than we will with, because he's very handsome. I'm so mad that you said baby, because now you're probably right. Yes, Dave, baby.
I'm just frustrated because it feels very much like they fall into this like silly hole that a lot of characters fall into on Disco. There's always sort of like the Osira and her what's his cute guy who sadly has passed away in the time since. There's always kind of
in the stand-up wheelchair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's the I'm the edgy bitch, and then the I'm the nicer guy. And do you want to know how we know they're bad guys? That their name literally together is the name Moloch.
Wait,
their
hold
name
on.
Literally is Bad Demon.
Has that actor passed away, or the character died on the show?
Tragically, the actor passed away. He actually was in a wheelchair as a result of an illness or an accident. Thank you. I couldn't remember if it was an illness and an accident, but like I remember there was a thing. And he had been in 3 different roles in Star Trek throughout the years. He was a Klingon before the MS took his ability to walk on set, and he tragically passed away after he wrapped filming.
That's so sad. I remember he was also on Jericho.
Yeah.
He was Skeet Ulrich's brother on Jericho.
Like we lost the season 2 of Picard Borg Queen as well.
Yeah.
It's just an unfortunate time for really excellent performances of unfortunately not well-written villains.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find a picture, but I can't remember his character's name.
His character's name is Aurelio.
Got it.
To your point, yeah, this is something that Star Trek does overall, but it is something that Discovery is very guilty of, which is, Osira is an unstoppable thing. How will they beat Osira? She has everything. They have nothing. She has all the resources. She has the master plan that they can't anticipate. And then suddenly they just do. It is exactly what we were talking about with... There he is.
Yeah.
It's exactly what we were talking about with Avengers, this most recent run of Avengers on Wednesday's episode, where, Jed McKay introduces the Ashen Combine. They're all insanely powerful gods. None of them can be beaten by even Thor, Scarlet Witch. None of them can touch these characters. What will they do? There are no options. They can't win. Oh, they can all just switch the person they're fighting, and then they will each win. No problem. They're done. They won. They got the whole thing. They swept it under the ground, and that's sort of what happened in that when they finally beat Osira. It's just like they can't win. They have no plan. She has beaten them on every front. There's nothing for them to do until they figure out what to do, and then they're fine. They're good. Don't worry about it. They don't lose anything. It's a really tough thing because I know that for a lot of conscientious creators today, knowing that fans really fall in love with characters and want to see them get really good, happy endings, there's a real fear of stakes and consequences and letting people die. So you get these things where it's like, there's no way for them to win. They can't do it. How will they overcome the odds? Oh, they just will. And then they don't have to give anything up to do it. So how was that win satisfying?
How does that play out an arc? How does that make the character feel like they've grown? What was the point then? Did you just have a cool visual in mind, or did you have a story beat?
And I know that that's what we're looking at here. These two will be ahead of them every step of the way. How are they going to do it? How are they going to get the thing? There's no way for them to get the thing. There's no way for them to get ahead of Maul and Locke until they get ahead of Maul and Locke. And then they will be there with them, opening up, finally seeing what the progenitor the power is, and they'll realize that these two are people too. And despite
No, I'm sorry.
No, go.
It's just, look. I like Book as a person. I really do. I enjoy his presence.
And so hot.
But I do not care about whatever this is. Yeah. I don't care that this is the original Booker's daughter.
Yeah, truly do not
don't care that this is his only family now.
Yeah.
Oh my God, because he just keeps losing his only family.
I don't need that. I want more from like Adira and Paul and Hugh and whatever is going on with Tilly's hot piece. Like, I wanted a little less from Book this season. I don't have anything against him as a character, but especially after you end last season with this, now he's in prison and now he's already out.
It was also weird that they ended the first episode with them concretely breaking up. And having a very healthy breakup. Like, that was one of the things that I'm like, hey, even 1,000 years in the future, we'll kind of probably be breaking up in the same way. Like, we'll probably need to be still having healthy conversations about what went wrong in our relationships. And I thought that was a really beautiful moment where they're just sitting there and going, what?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off by any means. I also thought it was lovely, but there were parts of it where I was like, this is that scene from Happy Endings where Dave can't seem to break up with the girl because they never actually break up.
It's true. They never do. But they say some really definitive things about, like, I think what went wrong was.
Yes.
And then to me, that was enough. And I sort of thought what we were saying was there's been a few characters who I'm not really. Doug Jones is another one where it's like, are you saying he's going to take a step back in this last. They're doing a lot of victory lap. It's our final season. You're not going to get everybody the way we had them throughout the rest of the show. And I think that's a great way to play a final season, especially when you only do 5 and not 20. It's really important to kind of have these moments where you honor things. And I really thought that this was a moment where they were kind of saying, like, okay, you're going to get to see Saru go off on his own. Okay, you're going to see Book take his next step, and it's not going to be with Michael. Michael's going to have to find somebody else to spend her life with.
You mean write his next chapter.
Thank you. Because it's a book. And instead it's just like, no, now he's back, and he's got a little sister. Which, like, guys, from a writing perspective, why was nobody in that writer's room like, I like the idea that you have here that she's going to be important to him because she was his mentor's daughter, but maybe it's a little ham-fisted to use the line, she is basically the closest thing I have to a sister. And that doesn't count if you don't know her at all.
And she's basically a Michael Burnham parallel.
Yeah, we already did that. The sibling storyline in season 2 with Spock and Michael. Yeah, exactly. We already did it. No, something new.
And I feel like part of my reaction to that too is you're already bumbling a lot of family relationships that you have. I really, really love the Stamets-Culber family. I really do.
It is weird.
But I feel like we are more regularly told that they are this family than we actually, like, they don't call themselves.
They straight up walk to Adira and we're like, hey, you are our child now.
And Adira's like,
she's also like, I'm fully an adult. Like I'm
Okay,
I mean,
hold
they're
on.
not, but like
Hold
that's
on.
another thing too. Like, are they a
She's an
teenager
author.
still?
Full-grown men occasionally go up to more or less full-grown queer people
It's
and
true.
say, "You are my child now."
It's
And
true.
they look back and go, "Okay, hi," and it's all a real cool situation. What's that, monkey?
Who are you talking about?
Right. So I could hear something weirder than a brilliant engineering kiddo needing a little direction in life, even if they sometimes think they know everything. Not that ours does, but
But I think
occasionally on the show.
that's even the thing. I feel like Adira is, you know, I feel like you can do that story, but with someone who is as much of an adult as Adira already is,
Yeah.
I need them to be a little bit
Oh.
more on the nose.
Otherwise,
about-
it's Tracy Jordan's kid.
Yes, it
Because,
does feel a little bit
Yeah, it's yes,
Staples.
exactly.
Yeah,
How
we
much-
got that.
How much of an adult Adira is for it to be such a light touch that we're like your dads. It just feels very weird. Like you have this weird friendship that you playfully slang around like we're family. No, you need to like, you guys are my dads and I love you.
I mean,
I
I think
need
they
that from the age level.
We as
there.
gay people get to choose which engineers are our dads in life.
I don't feel like I have ever heard Adira say that they love them.
yeah.
I don't feel like I have ever like felt from Adira other than like they gravitate toward the Stamets Culvers that there is actually genuinely I depend on you. You are my parents. I come to you any more than anyone else who we know as longstanding Discovery. Like it's the same with Detmer. Like I feel like we saw more with Adira idolizing Detmer than their own gay dads.
And I feel like part of it is that we met Adira on an Earth that is clearly extremely troubled. They were clearly in a weird place, like a not good place when they get onto the ship. But we never quite established. I mean, I think the idea is that they had no parents. You know,
They were like Adira in headlights.
They were on this weird generation ship. The point is, like, it would have been pretty easy in all of the character development writing that they did since Adira was introduced to have them say, "Hey, I've never had parents. Like, I come from absolutely nothing. Earth was insanely fucked up before you guys came. I've never had any role models or guidance. I need some help." You get sort of that's maybe where she's coming from, but it really is a maybe, because if you told me that, you know, her parents just kind of straight up died, like she was an adult and their parents died, I would also believe that. Like, it's just not really clear what this character's situation is and why it matters that she has these gay dads.
If out of nowhere one day Adira was like, I don't know why they're like this. They are so clingy. Like, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Because all I want her to be is basically Space Lily Tucker Pritchett. Like, them. I'm sorry, but like I'm using a female character, so that's why the connection there. I just want them to be the amazing queer child. Well, okay, so while Lily isn't necessarily gay, there's an episode where Lily shouts, "I'm gay, I'm gay, I'm gay," so I can have this. I do want to pivot slightly to another family. So by all means, everybody please jump in with the end of your damn it Stamets, I love you feels. But the other family on this ship that I think really needs to be recognized is the loveliness of the bridge crew's smallness. There is a super immensity. There is a near gravitas to everybody on the Enterprise bridge. When you're on the Enterprise, well, God damn it, you've got to be somebody. It's the Enterprise. Voyager, the same way. Deep Space Nine, the same way. Each one of those was filled to the brim with the best of the best. Can I be honest? The people on Disco are just the people that happen to be on Disco. They are great, and they are great in so many ways, but they're a found family. Whereas all of the others are families of occupation, even if these people did choose to be reassigned, you are, a good 1,000 years from home. Baby, you are going to be lost and sad. You're going to need the people that remember what it was like in the past. And that makes an intimacy. That's probably why people love Community the way they do. Versus maybe the way people love The West Wing. The West Wing is all about the best of the best in their industries coming together and being excellent together. And that's so cool. And that's next gen. But this is kind of Community. This is the loveliness of real people who find themselves in a situation where they just want better for themselves. And every interaction with this bridge crew just filled my heart with joy in these 2 episodes.
I think Community is a really apt metaphor too, because like maybe they're not quite supposed to be there. When Jeff shows up, he's not really supposed to be the leader of he's a bad person. He's the leader of the friend group because he's very good at speeches, but he's basically constantly using them to get his way and then stumbling into taking care of this family. And similarly, like maybe Michael's not supposed to be leading a starship because she is insanely reckless, always thinks she's right, does dangerous shit. But then, like, as time goes on, it is of course has to be her, because the family has built this groove into the earth together where it only fits when Michael is in the position of leader, because that's what she's been doing this whole time. Even if on paper you're like this dangerous loose cannon that just keeps making her own choices, can't be the leader.
And you said so many things earlier that in a similar vein, and I just want to say I thank you so much for saying all of these things, because I see so much of the feedback against Michael Burnham being a captain, and I really love that your response is, yeah, that's the story.
Yes, exactly. That is 100% correct.
We don't talk about how the other ones might be incompetent too. A lot of them have that. Picard had it. Kirk had it.
Mama, kudos for saying that, for spilling.
Yeah, I mean, is Janeway supposed to be the captain of a ship that gets sent across the galaxy and has to make a 75-year journey home? Absolutely the fuck not. She is not the captain to unite the Maquis in Star Trek. That is 100% not who you send on any of those jobs.
Plain Janeway could.
Now that
Plain
would be
Janeway.
That would be it.
Someone hack her. Put her
the
in
whole
that.
point is that's who she becomes. That's what they grow into. That's every starship. Yeah, Picard is great from the get-go, but Picard also is mean to them. Picard coined the term "shut up, Wesley," which you don't scream at a child.
No.
Shut up, Wesley.
And go ahead.
Well, he can't be around children. Like, there's so many, like, and nobody cares. That's just that thing of like, well, yeah, if you're a man, you can just be terrible to everybody, and if you work good, you're good. So they all have stories.
I feel like so much of Star Trek is about, like we've been talking about this whole time. It's about taking big swings, often making mistakes.
Yeah.
And learning how to deal with them and roll with them. Timescales mentioned that they fell off the show during the thing where Ash broke Culber's neck.
Yeah.
I get that. A lot of people fell off during that. We didn't even start before that happened, and it took us a long time. It kept us away for a really long time. The thing that really got us to Disco in the first place was we were catching up on Picard. And we were like, let's just keep going. Let's watch Disco. And it's much like Once Upon a Time. I can't speak for watching it live. It seemed like a nightmare and I couldn't do it. Watching the whole thing all at once, I really love it. And I think it's great. And I think it just really took a long time for Disco to get its footing. I would also say, Timescales mentioned that it's a little more violent. I think there's a lot of history of violence in Star Trek, actually, going back to TOS from a lot of the things we've been watching. Say again?
The TNG exploding heads we mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no. There's a ton of that. I feel like so many of the things that I hear Disco get criticized for, they are genuine Star Trek things. They are trying to be experimental with Star Trek things and try doing them in different ways. And like I said, they made a lot of goddamn mistakes in doing them. And I will never say they didn't. They made mistakes in creating the Kelvin timeline, but I think it is fascinating. The fact that it's canon and the fact that it ties into the Prime timeline, all of these things. These are such huge swings, and there are a lot of really great things to experience, even in the mistakes. If it wasn't worth it, I don't think we would have gotten it this far. But I really do feel like Disco is so genuinely Trek in all of the best ways.
I just want to point out that he is absolutely right. Every single Star Trek made huge swings and mistakes, except DS9 never made any mistakes with Kira. So, well, no, maybe the I fucked your mom stuff wasn't cool.
Also, Kira's literal last, well, not literal last scene, but her last scene with Odo.
Okay, maybe there's 2 mistakes in the history of Kira Nerys, but that average is.
Oh, wait, I can go
world.
further, but I'm not going to.
We cannot. For Kira.
We don't have time. We gotta go.
Oh my God! Somebody call Gul Dukat. So, anyway.
And I'm really glad, Kevo, that you also talked about violence in Star Trek. This is again one of those things where I think from the 60s through the 2000s, talking about Star Trek without violence was sort of the equivalent of being like, I don't see race. I get where there's a really good intention there to be like, well, I don't judge based on this thing, and I'm not trying to make a show that has this thing. But the problem is it doesn't actually work like that in the world, and you can't not see race, and you can't not acknowledge that there isn't violence in Star Trek, and that some of the greatest moments, I mean, the Battle of Wolf 359 is one of the greatest and most important moments in Star Trek history, and it's insanely violent because what are they going to do? There is a godlike species that can overpower them in every way that is going to kill them. Of course, they're going to do something to defend themselves, but inherently that's violence. And if you acknowledge that that has to be part of all this, and that's like one of the most extreme examples. Before that and after that, there are all of Deep Space Nine.
I'm sorry, that is not one of the most extreme examples. I just want to say that everybody that overlooks that Khan is literally, there is a reason that I booed the first 7 episodes every time, who is now one of my favorite characters in all of Star Trek walked onto the screen in Strange New Worlds, because I think Khan is the most evil man in the universe, and he is literally a genocidal executioner.
Yeah.
And that is baked into the fabric of the original series and its films.
Yeah, the films, absolutely. I mean, it becomes a huge part of Deep Space Nine. I mean, in Deep Space Nine, they're in a war. They go to a war. Nog loses his leg. Like, they are in incredibly violent situations. Voyager, a constant question is it worth fighting to keep the crew alive so we can get home? And is it worth maybe fighting so that we can get home faster? Because if we don't, people are going to die before they see home again.
I mean, Garak is literally based on violence, and he is the best character in all of Deep Space Nine.
Garak creeps me out, but okay. We've talked about this before. It's just weird that they're like, look how sexy and horny he is, and it's this weird kind of Muppet.
But he's basically Ian McKellen.
He is Ian McKellen. He is not, my friend.
Oh,
but yeah. So I mean, I think what I like about the modern Star Trek series is that they right off the bat acknowledge that violence is baked in. Sometimes I can see the argument now that because we have grown so accustomed to action and big scenes and big, big plots, like big action-y plots, we maybe lose some of we're a science vessel exploring. And that is more of like a, hey, what if we shifted the dial a little bit over this way? But I think it's really important that now we just acknowledge that like the Federation has always been very violent and problematic.
And I really don't want to take away from the specific moment that Timescales brought up, because that one in particular,
that's also, I forgot to mention, that's when I stopped watching too.
That felt like Game of Thrones levels of violence in Star Trek, and
also it was against Ricky from My So-Called Life. How dare you?
That's something that I think in particular, that level of graphic violence portrayed on screen was a lot for Trek, and it was one of those things where, again, they're taking a swing, it was the tone, like I compared it to Game of Thrones. It was at the peak of Game of Thrones, and so they were trying to compete with other television. I don't feel like, there has obviously been violence since, but I don't think there has been anything since where I have been as off put as I was by that moment. I'm hoping they learned from it, and that's what it is, and that it's not just it desensitized me and I'm misremembering something.
Well, and I gotta say, they dealt with that moment and a lot. They put a lot of show effort into dealing with that, and not, when I say earning it, not being like it's actually okay, but saying like not just payoff, but that it cost a lot for that to happen, and it wasn't just a one-off. Like, look how badass this character is. He kills people. I'm Ghostkill and I kill people.
They never apologized for the Klingon sex, though. These Dothraki Klingons, I had to watch them have weird sex. And
that were not my fave.
There's part of, like, one of my balls has never been right since.
Yeah.
It's just, ugh.
That were not great.
No.
But they really put in the writing hours, the plot hours, I think everything you kind of have to put in when you take a big swing like that to, if it's a miss, to make something out of it. So the swing they took to address it, I think, was as big as the swing they took actually doing it. And while we've got him on screen, how do we all feel about the open? This is your perfect man. As soon as he showed up, I was like, this is exactly Nico's perfect man. Real
quick, I love how this screen cap in particular came out, where it's Rillick's and Vance's faces lined up like this. But yeah,
behind every gay person is an even more evil gay person.
She's part Cardassian, so that's always in the mix. And
she's part Bajoran too.
Speaking of that, I kept thinking this guy was Romulan, and so
me too.
That was a really cool thing. That's disappointing.
I completely
really wanted
agree.
A Romulan first officer.
The Kellendrans are in one episode of Deep Space Nine.
Ever.
What did we need that for?
With a sister species.
They actually have a lot of side canon.
Yeah, that's not. That doesn't matter.
Me too.
I just want to say.
Yeah, exactly. I have tons of side canon.
Jump back.
Yeah, me at the circus.
If you are part Cardassian, you are all Cardassian. End of sentence. You know how if you're at all Latinx, I can't believe
you're like, I gotta get that one in.
If you are at all Latinx, you are Latinx enough. I just want to be clear with you. If you're at all Cardassian,
like Garrick,
no, Garrick is different.
If you stay Cardassian, you ain't gotta get Cardassian.
You don't.
No, he is literally one of the most perfect men. He's so beautiful.
And he has been since BSG. He was hot then too.
He was super hot in BSG. He is very handsome for the age that he is, which is 63, which is a little rough to have.
Whoa!
Happen. Yeah,
my literal dad.
Which is bonkers because he was 43 for Leoben, which is like I'm almost 40. So
there is no way that was 20 years ago.
Yeah 2004.
The miniseries was December 2003, and the show started December 2004.
How does Rosalind still look so good in everything?
Maybe we'll cover that next year.
I'd be down because she's perfect. Because she is the true Jean Grey of this.
She's
universe.
Perfect until Scream 4.
It's Mary McCormick and Mary McDonald. They both took major franchise roles and turned them into USA gold mines.
Yeah,
and you just cannot hate on that. In what is it? It's In Plain Sight, and Mary McDonald is on The Closer, and then gets her own show as a spinoff of The Closer.
You know what else she's in for a little bit?
Grey? Is she on Grey's?
Grey's Anatomy.
Well, I mean, you can't stop me from watching Grey's Anatomy, or as I'm starting to call it, Starfleet without the badges.
Yeah.
As soon as we finish TOS, we're starting.
So what do we think?
I think he's spectacular. You know, one of the things that I really resented is that, like, Shaw has all of the sweaty locker room masculinity of a Brian Azzarello, Eduardo Riso character from something like 100 Bullets. There is such a raw, baked goodness into him that his masculinity is sort of dwarfed, though, by the way he is a Boy Scout in that, because his strength translates to this, I got to do everything by the books. And it winds up kind of making him much less attractive, but also less inclined to be the main character of a Star Trek franchise. Here we have a character that has all of that masculinity baked into him with a little bit of that James Bond, Daniel Craig goodness, that, you know, perfect coiffed hair. And he's kind of a bad boy. And I think it's so fun that he is a dynamic bad boy who's actually secretly kind of a good guy. And I don't know. I just think my final thought on this 2-part premiere, that's actually just 2 separate episodes, but whatever, I'll count it. Everybody really brought their game, and this is a character that is clearly going to shape the rest of the season.
I mean, I think you really nailed it. I was really excited about the idea of the guy who shows up, and you think what you're about to get is... This is Vance's best buddy. Like, this is, I thought this was going to be the quintessential Federation captain of this time. And it's really Burnham that's the problem, because they're fish out of water. They're not from here. And again, Michael's out of her goddamn mind. Michael does whatever she wants, whenever she wants, and cannot be told no, regardless of the authority. The face in space is going to show up and tell her what to do, and she's going to say, I'll just do what I want.
Listen, face, I just want to talk.
Yeah.
One of us
And the
is
face is going to be like, you're great, Michael, because she is. But
yeah, she is. I mean, every time she nails it, she's still alive, so she's clearly doing something right. But like, the fact that ultimately the reveal over the 2 episodes is, in fact, this is the looser canon. This is the person that is more difficult than Michael, that has caused more problems for Vance than Michael.
First of all, this screen cap in conjunction with what you're saying.
Yes.
This is their sitcom cover.
Yep, this is 100% their friends moment.
But I love that concept after everything that you've said about Michael this episode. I feel like maybe what is the thing that is finally going to get Michael to calm the fuck down?
Yeah.
Is someone being a looser canon than her. Wow.
Well, and it's the fact that he is old enough to be her father. So this is like, okay, imagine if you've been doing this for 30 more years, Michael, and you've exhausted everybody around you, and you're still brilliant. And don't get me wrong, like, this guy clearly is going to be such a credit to the crew and clearly loves the mission and Starfleet. But like, you can see where this is getting a little bit exhausting for everybody. And I think addressing that, it's kind of similar to the violence. Like, at some point we have to be like, being off the chain all the time is exhausting to everybody. The president is exhausted. Admiral Vance is exhausted. Eventually you're going to exhaust Tilly, who's just trying to educate some goddamn kids. And by the way, Mary Weissman's hair
much
is important. Jewish hair is a weird thing that it's I mean, don't get me wrong, Jews have white privilege till the cows come home, but there are some things like very wild Jewish hair that when you've got it sometimes becomes a thing.
Can I tell a funny story about her hair? I was reading an interview with the cast, and they were asked, what props did you take home? Saru took home his final prosthetics. Mary Weissman tried saying, I didn't take anything. And Doug Jones was like, didn't you? And she was like, fine, I took some hair. It's really hard to find my exact tone, or what. I don't have hair, so I don't know what you call that. Color. Yeah. She was like, my shade, it's really hard to find, so I took home some hair. And like, you can see all of it on her head in these first 2 episodes.
I just think she looks like she's going to tell you that she's going to squish you like a cockroach. I think she looks great. Yeah. I think the volume is a little bigger than is fair when no one else quite has the same type of volume.
She has the most hair. It's like she took all of Adira's.
Yes. But I just think it's so beautiful, and I think it suits her complexion. It suits her visuals so beautifully. They are not making it like, that hair. They're making it like, wow, look at her new hair. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I love it. It makes me very happy that they're doing this. Also is just a very funny storyline. This dude that is so clearly horny for Tilly, who is not really prepared to handle that. I'm very interested as to how much we're backdoor piloting Starfleet Academy on this.
Yes.
I imagine we will see some of that. I'll be interested to see how much. I've got questions like, are we getting to the progenitors mid-season and then doing another plot for the second half?
Or like Magicians season 5 did, yeah.
Yeah. Or is this taking us all the way? Lots to discover here. But I think this is a really strong two-parter to start. Also, I love the president so much, and I really wish that there were enough time to cast June Diane Raphael as her sister or daughter.
All the time. Yep.
They look exactly alike. I always think of June Diane Raphael when I look at her, and I absolutely think that she would not be able to take a Star Trek seriously long enough to be on it. But that would be...
wonder.
No, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Why are the ships all flying into space right now? Can't you just put them in a dock or something?
I never would have guessed Tig Notaro, and now she's one of the most iconic Star Trek characters of all time. So.
Where was she? Two, she's a fucking Q. Somebody needs to admit that she's a Q.
I would also like to note that June Diane Raphael has been on Star Trek.
She's been a voice on Lower Decks. That's right.
Yes.
She's Phillip's mom.
She is her husband's mom.
Yes, she is.
I also just want to say, if you could jump back to the previous image for a moment. I understand that sometimes humor doesn't always come across. I am not actually prejudiced against all Cardassians, and I am doing an over-the-top caricature. I actually clearly love Garak. And I just I feel so fucking dumb because I think sometimes the joke doesn't work, that I am just being a Bajoran extremist. And I think sometimes people think that I have problematic views. Not the case. I could not be happier than having Madam Slaughter, President sitting in this image.
President Assface.
President Murder Bitch.
I could not be happier that the Death Lizards finally calmed down.
It's a good thing that J.K. Rowling finally has all the power. I'm kidding.
I love President Warlord Shank.
Thank goodness Firelord Ozai won. So, no, all of that aside, I actually do think that the Cardassians offer a lot to the tapestry that is Deep Space Nine, and the recognition that there actually are people in these conflicts. And everybody is a person. And so a lot of the jokes I make are based on the very simplistic depiction of the struggle, where, who are your heroes in that entire thing? Literally, Nurse Ratched is one of the heroes. So, let's just get it together.
I'm going to make a meme of this screen cap where he's you and she's all Cardassians.
Kind of. But I love this 2 episodes. Jojo, I do believe that you will be disc-parting us before we jump into our disc-gamery. So I just want to give you this chance to say whatever things come to your mind.
Well, thank you for letting me be a part of this disc world. I
give you a shimmy.
The crowd went tepid.
Please clap.
Please clap. I really enjoy Discovery. I think it's a lot of fun. I as somebody who I tried, and I am going to go back to watch it, TNG, and TNG, even though it isn't, TOS as you guys are watching, I'm still finding some partial disconnects because it's episodic as opposed to longer story form telling. And Discovery, because it's kind of playing with that while also trying to play a little bit with some episodic stuff. It's really interesting. As somebody who does love science, who's loved science for his entire life and literally has a career in science, to have a show that kind of focuses a lot on science really makes me happy, really excited. I am very fascinated to see how we are going to get to this point in the future. I'm really excited to see, how this affects everybody, how Michael becomes captain. That makes me really excited. And yeah, I'm really fascinated and interesting. And even as somebody who's newer to Discovery and is jumping on, 2 seasons behind, I truly don't feel like I missed a lot. I really don't think there's a lot missing from those 2 seasons that's being brought up to here that they don't already tell you within the first episode.
Yeah, truly, other than the introduction of Blade, I mean book, there's not a whole lot that you're really missing. Well, it's been such an incredible time having both JoJo and the Time Scales hanging out with us. And so until we get to have you on our show again, whatever day that is tomorrow, we can't wait. And where can everybody find you on the web?
You can find me on the Mycelium Spore Net over at Peak Jonah. That's PEAK.
Thank you so much, JoJo. I almost said on the web soch and stopped myself because that is a step too far. It's a
you do have a red line. Wow.
It's
I'm
out there.
shocked to discover this.
Well,
Discovery.
Discovery. I'm your Michael Burnham, and I will be your captain
That's
for this discovery.
And I'm your
Yeah.
Tilly.
All right. Well, that means
Bye.
you got to go off and do Starfleet stuff. Go introduce Star Academy. Bye. Bye. Okay, so no, I'm really excited about our game. One of the things we love to do on this show is our bracketeering. Bracketeering is such a silly thing because it just takes 2 things and compares them. This is brilliant. I love
This is the stupidest cast photo I've ever seen.
I always
love
love
it.
this one. Well, and
Yeah.
let's even because you have to look at everyone that it is. It's
Yep.
Lorca.
Yep.
It's
She's gonna kill
Giorgio.
you. She's gonna kill you.
It's Ash.
Wow, that
She's
whole
gonna kill
side is
you.
gone.
It's Saru.
He's gonna get killed.
It's Michael.
She's gonna kill you.
It's Paul.
Get
And
killed.
it's Tilly.
She's gonna
And
kill
think
you.
about the fact that this was like at the top of the show.
Yeah.
This is
So like these
insane.
people barely know each other.
Yeah.
They barely know their own characters.
Wait, and now go
It's-
to the this season one.
No one
First off,
dancing.
I love this. I love Tilly's look. Like, what the fuck are you all doing?
Hey guys, I'm not on this show anymore.
Why
Are
are-
you guys sure you're supposed to be in this hallway?
Saru and Hugh taking it very seriously.
Yo, Hugh and
love
that
that
tiny
background.
waist. I just,
Oh, I know.
you know, Wilson Cruz.
he's
Since
snatched.
I am like a teen, since I'm like a teen top, I have been like, yo, that's a guy. We could go on some dates.
He's
That's
beautiful.
a handsome gentleman.
This also is making the new guy look as tall as Saru. Like, why is he? What is that? I don't really understand what's going on there.
And that's a lot of forced perspective for sure.
I also want to know why everybody's wearing boot Crocs.
It's the equivalent
future.
of the like black sneakers that you wear when you work at a restaurant.
Welcome to Moe's.
The non
Moe's.
slip sneakers.
Welcome to Moe's. All right.
All
you
right,
can walk with
let's
that.
bracketeer some stuff.
You want to just keep shouting "Welcome to Moe's"? So
Yeah.
let's talk about Discovery.
We can, if that's what's in your heart.
No,
I'm
so-
vamping because I need to look up a number generator.
So I super duper love bracketeering. We take 2 things and we place them against each other, but this episode of bracketeering is a little bit different. We've taken 16 major characters from Discovery, and we've Kevo actually has created an unbelievable list of more than 200 of the most popular genres as per Wiki. And we are going to see who we think might lock in with that genre a little bit tighter, and just have a real silly good time. And let's get to laughing, gaming, and a little bit more. The other thing that's really fun is if you kind of treat bracketeering as a slow, painful top, March Madness kind of bracket type thing, it's murder. But if you just make some silly calls and you laugh with it, it's a lot of fun. So we definitely encourage you guys to laugh along with us as we figure out our opinions and some impossible hypotheticals.
Here we go.
Oh, that's the band.
So what? Okay, so we're starting with Michael Burnham and Saru, and the number I've generated is 79.
That's 10 hotter.
Experimental film.
Come on.
So
I don't-
avant-garde.
If anybody says anything but Saru, I'm just pulling the plug on the internet for the day.
Listen,
Are we really kicking Michael Burnham out right away, though?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I'm with you. That's the thing. That's this
Listen,
game.
and
That's even
okay.
exactly what we're saying.
if you're both on that vote, then I'm going to protest vote. And I'm just going to say that there are a lot of worlds in which giving a black woman her own voice in art is an experimental film of its
Ooh.
own.
You just got Rhonda, though. Ooh,
Everybody-
could I see people being insane in an experimental genre? I could also just change the genre.
No, but like, I mean, like,
It's chaos.
seriously, like, I feel like everybody's always like, ooh, Freaky Monster, that's an experimental film. Yeah, sure. But bring me Living Single as Black Swan.
Well, Black Swan's not an experimental film.
Well, I mean, it's the closest thing that most people think to an experimental film because, like, she's one person and another person. It's the same person.
You're too tense.
That's a terrible joke.
It's one of my faves.
And that's our show.
Bye. No, it's gotta be Saru. I mean, come on. It's also just like this, guys. This list is like almost 300 entries long. There are many in which I would pick Michael over Saru. You know, if you'd said any kind of action film, I probably would have picked Michael. There's a lot of different kinds of romances. There's a lot. This is by pure chance of a random number generator. We got one of what I think is actually very few where I would be like, no, it's got to be Saru. But that is my vote. And we'll leave it at that.
I'm going to vote Michael. And if I win, it's wrong. But if I win, it's right.
Why am I the tiebreaker?
Listen, this is your lot in life. Get in there and
Oh.
scream your vote first, and then you don't have to be.
When I win, it feels correct.
You're right. That is what I should do, and I'm going to do that from now. Well, that's not fair. I have to pick all the stuff. You guys suck. I love Cyborg's point. Michael has a lot of intelligence. I feel like Saru can be such a wimp sometimes. And I just don't know that he would be down for the experimental film. And I feel like it would probably end up being some kind of thing where he's the freak. And like, that's rough. I'm going to go with Michael. Please don't hate me.
Bow!
You got Rhonda.
You got Rhonda. I put a space in your show.
The number
right.
is 38. How are they both so low already? So for Tilly and Stamets, what is this genre? So the number that came up was, like I said, 7. What was it? 38.
38.
Chopsaki,
I don't know what that is. Let's find out.
which is a colloquial term
It's like kung
for
fu
martial
films.
arts films and kung fu, primarily Hong Kong action cinema between the 60s and 80s.
Then Tilly, because I will take Sucker Punch over a pale white dude making a Western.
Yeah, this is the kind of other side of things where it's like there's very few. It would have to be like ensemble cast of a group of gay friends, some of whom have drug addiction, others whom have HIV, and they do not have enough money to pay their rent. That's kind of like one of very few genres where I'm going to pick Anthony Rapp over Mary Weissman. And unfortunately, that was not the genre drawn. So, Mama,
So Kung Fu Tilly.
you take it.
Kung Fu
Awesome,
Tilly.
awesome. So now we have Booker versus Culber.
I love this video.
Stop that.
I also love this video. Number 100, the genre of this. Oh, what is Guna Guna Epic?
I love all of these genre names.
Refers to a particular type of native cultural exploitation film set in remote parts of the Far East,
Jesus
Southeast Asia.
Fucking Christ.
So am I picking
Roll
another
again.
number?
Roll again.
Roll again.
We
This
cannot
is
do
the
that.
problem with all cinema, folks,
one do
is
you
also
think
what we're trying to highlight here.
Exploiter. Just pick the colonizer. It's no big deal.
Listen. Oh no, the other genre is coming of age, which, I mean, Culber.
All right, it's got to be the second one because there's no actual problem with the second one.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I just identify with a Latino gay man a little bit better, but I do think Ricky is your coming of age guy. Oh God, I called him Ricky. I do think
no, that's correct. We don't take that back. He's Ricky forever. He's already been, so we've had him already in the genre as the comer of age. This is the show where we see him most as the role that he would take in a coming of age story, which is now the father figure. I mean, he's in a coming of age story right now, and it is, for all that it's weird because they just have been very nebulous about what's going on. Being a queer elder looking after a queer younger is really beautiful. And I think the really great thing is Stamets appears to be the more active parental figure, in that he's constantly with Adira, and they're friendly too. Like he's the Lorelai Gilmore to them. But Hugh is a doctor and is constantly one of my favorite parts of the episode that we didn't talk about because it's so quick is he says to Book, "How are you doing?" And Book says like, "Oh, prison. I've just been like getting it up for for Starfleet." And he's like, "That's what you're doing. I asked how you're doing." And if that isn't exactly what we need in a coming of age elder character, I don't know what is. So.
And what's funny about these characters being pitted together for this thing is I feel like we are even seeing already that they are going to try and give Book a similar story with Maul. And like, no, I don't want that for Book. Please give us more story with Culber, who already has a child. Like, give us more of that. So, yeah, going Culber.
Culber it is.
It doesn't matter what the genre is. I'm voting for Zora.
I mean, genuinely, I was not a Tig Notaro fan.
She's fantastic in this, but
one of the things I found that like Tig Notaro comes with a caveat where if you're not already in on it, people talk to you in the queer community like you're the dumbest boy in school. And I did not get into her right away. And so Star Trek gave me an opportunity to come to appreciate her, find out more about her, and fall in love with her story and her storytelling. It's going to really depend on the category here because I am always going to fight for the non-traditional life form. So
the genre is pulp noir.
The robot.
Yeah, and can we at least agree that this one is tough?
Yeah, no, it's tough in a 55-45 way where the 55 weighs a ton.
Yeah.
It's go ahead.
I mean, Zora is just a phenomenal character and such an important one. I only lament that there was so little that we couldn't really talk about her that much in talking about these two episodes. She is. Go ahead.
No, just as much as this is, fun and game, and we're just playing however we want because who cares? We made up the rules. The premise is who we would want to see a spin-off of in this genre. Yeah. And genuinely, I feel like the person that if I was picking if I had my pick, who I would want to see more from, I feel safer in my belief that we will see more from Jet Reno, that she has the potential to pop up on Starfleet Academy. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I don't know how many more opportunities we're going to have for Zora.
Yeah.
I appreciate that Jet at least got such a really kind interpretation in Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Okay, the Netflix version, but okay.
Here's something we didn't talk about, which I do want to bring up really quickly because it was insane. Sure. We got another synth.
Yeah, and then we wasted them. We wasted them immediately.
It was a real bummer. I loved the establishment that like they're common enough that it wasn't insane. That nobody was like, you are the legendary descendant of Data.
And it was almost like, oh, we know so much about synths because they're so common that we have ways to react to them.
Right. But now I really need to see it.
I feel confident that that is going to be Stamets' story this year. I feel confident that Fred is going to be revived and that we are going to see something to do with Stamets and that android concept and the progenitors. And I'm not sure what exactly. But I do have full confidence. I would be shocked if there is not more Fred. And yeah, that was a really interesting, on top of the fact that it was just an interesting character concept to begin with. And like, I really love that you immediately say he's like Data, but then also
that
immediately
actor,
he's not picking the right words. He's not interacting on a perfect level. Like that was a really smart choice the way they directed it.
they picked a really good actor to be, you know, somebody that looked vaguely like Brent Spiner circa 1986, and you know, to make him up in a way that vaguely worked. It was a really cool character choice. I do hope there is more with that.
And, you know, whenever I think about her, I always think about the fact that, you know, a lot of people think of her as the 78th Attorney General. But, you know,
This is a Janet Reno joke, isn't it? God damn
was so much more
Cut his mic
before
off.
she passed away. Fine, let's just move on.
Well, it was originally going to be like Joan Reno or something, or I don't remember what it was, or maybe it was a boy's name before they recast to Tig, or they ultimately cast Tig, and Tig was like, "Yeah, the name Jet. That's like a really cool name, like Joan Jett." Maybe that's why I got Joan from, but it was a normal name, and Tig was like, "Obviously, can I have a weird name like mine?" So we have Michael Burnham versus. We have Michael Burnham versus Sylvia Tilly in the genre. You wouldn't believe I could land on this by chance. Melodrama.
Oh, this is cruel. Can it just be a tie?
It's got to be Burnham.
I would say it's going to be Burnham just because I've seen the acting go more insane places.
Yeah.
They give her more insane stuff to work with, so it's never a judgment. But yeah.
It's Tilly acquits herself very well in that moment where she explains to Michael why she's leaving, and the whole idea that like she kind of just wanted her mother to love her, and they're 1,000 years in the future, her mother is never going to show up and tell her she loves her. It was a beautiful moment and it was really well acted, but it was basically all that I was ready to handle from Tilly in that vein of a story. Whereas with Michael, I mean, she's hitting a melodramatic moment
every other minute, at least
4 times an episode. Even if it's a musical episode that is based on like they've come to a comedy planet where everybody speaks and jokes. Somehow, all of Michael's jokes are Pagliacci the clown jokes.
Yeah, no, Burnham manages to scream on the Mime Planet.
Yeah,
I don't even mind the grandeur because it's so reminiscent of Captain's like Cisco, but like it's the whispering. Guys, I'm getting older. Can't take it. Mix your audio better.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just get the audio mixed together, people.
Oh, tough.
So Culber versus Zora. I mean, you know, but
yeah, it really depends. Like
the genre is historical fiction.
I'm still voting Zora. I don't care.
I honestly think I might be more interested in seeing Zora recount historical fiction than like where this gay Latino would have fit in. Like One Day at a Time is interesting. One day at a time through time would not be great.
What's funny about Star Trek though is with this game we're playing, we pick up the genre historical fiction and like we genuinely could get a story of Hugh Culber being blown back in time and this character being part of a historical fiction genre story. I mean, Zora too, sure. I feel like she might not fit in as well in the 1800s, but she might. She's got her thing going. She's a lady.
And the doctor can't get back to him and Rory, but he just wants them to be happy, and he looks in on their story, and he keeps up with it, and then all of a sudden, she's not a Dalek. What's going on? And now he's an old man.
Well, that's all right then. So do we have Michael versus the ship? I feel like we're
Oh,
going to end up seeing this
God.
on the show.
Yeah.
Let me make sure it's not something inappropriate.
Whitesploitation. I don't know what to do.
The Italian cinema genre giallo, which is a genre of murder mystery fiction that often contains slasher, thriller, psychological horror, sexploitation, and less frequently supernatural horror elements.
Michael Burnham. Are you kidding me? Michael Burnham is a young Meryl Streep.
Evo, break the tie.
I know. It's not fair.
Of course, it's
I'm a
Zora.
good
I mean,
person.
her soft-spoken, innocent little baby voice. The film would take place on the ship, and it would be kind of like Calypso, where it's just somebody in this completely empty ship, except the completely empty ship is a person. It would be kind of Solaris-esque, which I know isn't Giallo, but anyway, of course it's got to be Zora. Zora is both the venue for this type of film, but also the voice actor is so perfect.
Do you hear this silly man throwing his film degree in our faces?
Don't you have one too?
No.
I
believe-
also took an Italian film course in lieu of finishing my language credits, so I am also smart.
My degree is in art history, specifically European modernism. God, I'm unemployable. So yeah, no.
And yet you have a job.
Yeah, congrats me. So let's talk Michael Burnham.
I think I also want to give it to Zora, mostly because, and this might even, but my answer might disappoint you. It's because I would be more chill with Zora turning out to be the murderer than Michael Burnham.
No,
So-
I'm okay with that.
It means I believe Zora is capable of murder.
I'm okay with that. I think she is too.
I hope not. Speaking of capable of murder, we have blasts from the past, Lorca and Cornwell, and their genre. Making sure I don't land. No, we're not putting that.
Which of them would I cast and I spit in your grave?
Ooh. Which direction do you want me to jump from the number, though? Screwball comedy or sharksploitation?
Okay, sharksploitation, but I do want to know why we can't go with the number.
Sex report film.
No, sex report
Okay.
film, Lorca. He is not a truly beautiful man, but he makes Lorca a very sexy
Do you
character.
even know what a sex report film is?
No, but I've done book reports and I've had sex, and I could probably do one about the other. Are we looking this up? I'm so in.
Actually, it's not even that bad. It's pseudo documentaries that had the sexual life as their subject matter. Effectively, sexploitation films, the genre was particularly popular in the 1970s Europe. Actually, for that genre, I could see Lorca doing it.
I've seen literally every episode of HBO's Real Sex. Where do you guys think I memorized the lyrics to Party Doll?
You're
I'll
dumb.
never know.
You're dumb. Shut up. You made me this way.
You're the one.
You're the one.
So what genre did we actually pick? Is it sex report?
Yeah.
Okay,
Sex
then
report.
it's definitely Lorca. Even though I love sorry. I love Carolyn from Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. You need to go
With
to
Anthony Rapp.
Personnel. Is Anthony Rapp and Don't Tell Mom?
No,
the Babysitter's
Adventures in
no,
Babysitting.
He's in Adventures in Babysitting.
Yeah.
Sorry, wrong.
I
babysitting
love-
movie.
Dan Rydell's therapist from Sports Night.
Dead? Yes.
You're wearing my shirt, Gordon.
He could have played Gordon.
Gordon
And that's
Cole.
why
Gordon
we're
Jenkins.
picking him.
Yeah.
This would absolutely have sex with Brenda Strong? Is that her?
Hopefully not Brenda Song.
Yeah, Brenda Strong is the one who is Mary Alice, and I'm not
Yes.
making that person up. Okay, good. So we have Pike versus Giorgio, and the genre. I'm not changing for sure. Teen film.
Oh, Giorgio.
No, Pike.
No, wrong.
No, no. Listen,
Pick a different answer.
you said teen film.
Yeah.
He's my Euphoria
Teen.
dad.
No,
Teen.
that's
No.
that's Multiple Man from Last Stand.
No, because he was married to Rebecca Gayheart, and she's already one thing in my brain. So
No, but here's the thing. I can only see him being in like a DCOM teen film. I can see Philippa Georgiou in a Superbad or worse. I can see her in some like very not appropriate teen film as the wider genre and concept. Whereas I feel like Pike, as much as I would love to see him in something a little raunchier, I don't think that Pike actually has it in him. But Philippa Georgiou, yeah,
he's a painter and a chef, and he likes
which
wine.
is great. But like the teens,
bachelor film.
Teens are not prepared to go to his stupid quarters and have a meal.
Yes.
Whereas they all want to go to Giorgio's weird sex dungeon quarters where there's like murder implements, and she's going to talk to them about men that she's murdered by crushing their throat with her thighs.
Listen,
I'm not.
All teens want that.
saw Welcome to the Dollhouse and then had a thing for my chemistry teacher, and I'm telling you, this man, teen film.
I wish I could scream my favorite quote from that movie, but it's not appropriate. My sister and I just scream that at each other whenever we see each other.
Kevo, you were saying?
Break the tie, Kevo.
What?
I said break the tie.
No, I'm with you on Philippa. I wouldn't want, and Mark points out like Porky's. I'm not a fan of Porky's, but I mean Porky's. I mean, like, she could go to that level. She could go to Animal House levels. Actually, Animal House is adults, so I could see Pike being an Animal House, but not teen level Animal House. If he was, he would be an unfortunate victim. And I don't want that for Pike. I'm totally on him being in like bachelor films. I'm not saying he's not a sexy stud, but Philippa Georgiou will definitely teach children how to murder and set things on fire. And so I think she would fare better in all umbrella of teen. And so that's where I'm from. Sorry, did you have something?
No, I was just so proud of this, where I was like, we have so many amazing characters. What about trios? Trios that represent reasonable groups of people in terms of character dynamic and also their function. Not that this is a 1-for-1 or even a 3-for-3, but rather this represents that sort of hallmark staple of what Star Trek gets so right about other genres that allows it to have unique episodes in places like the holodeck, where they just do Sherlock Holmes or they just go back in time to the 1920s. This really, for me, represented a dichotomy triptych on two different sides, 3 and 3, that represented everything that was great about Star Trek. And I was really grateful, Kevo, that your list was organized so well and that it played in so well to this bracketeering fight. I was just feeling a little bit of cockiness for our team and our group effort.
Well, thank you. So we have on the left here, Bridge Crew, Detmer, Awoshikun, and Reese.
Hey, boy.
And on the right, we have Dadmiral Vance,
Hey, Daddy.
President Rillick, and President Tarina. And, I really wondered what genre would come up and whether or not I would have to adjust. And I could not possibly be more pleased that this works for groups. Gangster film.
Ooh, this is tough.
Oh, my. Yeah, this is.
Right.
Oh, my God. Because if you told me that somebody was going to do the Untouchables remake and they were going to ask me where to set it, college. Set it at an Ivy League college, make it just about the creme de la creme killing each other off. Beautiful. But if you told me somebody with an untouchable eye, like a Baz Luhrmann, where his visual sense is brilliant, his storytelling is sometimes iffy, he was doing an Untouchables where the story is already the story, he's not changing it, it would be tough for me because he would go with an older cast, and I could see the absolute success of that as well.
Here's what I'll say.
I'm gonna lean young because Reese is beautiful.
Here's what I'll say. The adults in the room are already kind of doing a racket. It's a very official racket, but the Federation is essentially a gang. You know, you pay to be in it. You pay them a fee. You get protection. You get supplies run to you. The three of them are much less. The three bridge crew are much less ready to run a racket. They're barely even soldiers in a racket.
They're a tennis racket.
Awoshikun, from the couple episodes where she's like a fucking boxer, gives me a little bit of the vibe. The other two do not. So I've got to vote for the adults.
Detmer's PTSD arc that she went through and her haiku of Stamets' blood living in my brain. I think Detmer also has an intensity to her.
An intensity, but I don't know if it's for gangster films. I don't know if she's for the streets.
I get that. And I know Reese isn't. He'd probably play some pretty boy that gets killed.
Yeah, and he was encased in an egg in like 5 seconds when they went on that away team mission in the first episode. He was immediately disabled.
To clarify for Cyborg, who asked what type of gangster, since I do want to answer the question, so clicking the link for that heading is a film belonging to the genre that focuses on gangs and organized crime. This is how we're going with, if that's what the genre says, we're keeping it that loose of an umbrella, which especially when you have these two varied groups, I think leaves the ability to answer a lot more comfortably open. Nico, you had something.
No, I mean, I was just going to say that part of what is so interesting is when we're talking about the idea of the gangster, we have the American gangster in our mind, but the idea of the gangster is something so complicated throughout the world. It's not unlike that of like economic terrorist. And so this idea of gangster film is this very dated Americanized thing compared to what a gangster is worldwide. And something like Star Trek would be interested in maybe challenging the notion of what gangster is, because they've done the Bugsy Siegel 1,000 times. It would be interesting to see what a space gangster is outside of Osira.
And while I love the Federation group here, I think I am also probably going to go for the youngins. I wish I could rope in Vance, because he is really the only one that very strongly makes me want to pick them. But I feel like both Rillick and Tarina are the Reese of this group.
No way! I can't believe that.
Rillick is kind of is pretty clever.
Rillick is like stoked to run a gang. Rillick currently does run a gang and is excited about it. Tarina was like, this mob sucks and gives me nothing. And when the mob was like, we just got a new headquarters, a bunch of new trucks and new guns, she was like, I am back in. We will join the mob again.
Debauchery. Let's go.
How? I don't even know how I'm having this conversation. I've been outvoted, so let's just move it on.
Oh goodness! And now we have like our in memoriam to characters that we will probably never see again, but were weird and fascinating and had so much potential. We have Ash and we have Arium. Oh gosh, what was the number I just picked? 24.
Ash. We're so lucky.
Oh
No,
my god, that's so funny. I know I'm jumping one down. I'm jumping one down though, which is specifically hilarious for both of these characters. Yep. Body horror. Literally both of their stories are already body horror. Yep. How did that happen?
I think I'm going to vote against Ash, and it's for like a silly reason, but the Ash body horror story has been told so many times. I feel like it's an entire genre of Black Mirror episodes, and we get so little body horror outside of the strong, powerful man who sees himself as the good guy. You know, that is Jekyll and Hyde. That literally is the earliest body horror, the monster within. And I just can't, in good conscience, then give the vote to Ash, who so represents that ideal sort of personified.
I
And-
thought. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I thought it was one of the really fascinating things that I noticed about Discovery early on was some of the cybernetic body horror, some of the mycelial body horror. Another really good one is Non. When Non
Yeah.
first gets her breathing apparatus ripped off, that is a horrible body horror moment. For one thing, I imagine it's just insanely painful, and then she's choking, and they just look like little apparatus. Like it doesn't look like it's a big deal. It almost looks like a facial adornment. You never see it in such a capacity that you're like, like she's like a Breen where the helmet's never coming off. And then it does, and it's really, really bad. And it's just been such a staple of Discovery that augmentations and prosthetics and not even different disabilities, but different ways of interacting with the world.
Accessibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What tools do you need to be here? It's not, Non is an incredibly accomplished security officer and like the hottest person on the ship. So it's not a matter of like, oh, how will she get around? But you are faced with this moment where it's like the thing that she needs to live just got fucked up. What are we doing? And it is one of those things. That's one of those parts of Discovery that really is progressive and is taking conversations forward about what accessibility would look like in the future and what we dream about with accessibility, which is not just like, I guess you can get into this building if you have to.
I guess a ramp. Look at us being
I guess,
progressive.
This is a huge inconvenience, but I guess we'll make it happen.
The shim was invented in 5000 BCE, but look at us being incredible having a shim.
Yeah.
Look at everything we do for you.
So I just feel like all of that is baked into a character like Ariam, and what a body horror story would look like for her. And with Ash, like it is weirdly body horror in that like he's technically Vuk without his body, but it is really more psychological horror and then psychosexual horror. They didn't ask for.
No.
So anyway, just this is my long-winded vote for Ariam, who, rest in peace, one of my favorite characters.
Well, and also bless your long-winded vote.
Yeah. Sure.
I am reminded of a quote from Modern Family. I forget which of the Tucker Pritchetts says it, but I assume it is Cam, who says, I don't think I would be a very inspiring disabled person.
It is Cam.
If it came to some kind of body horror story, I don't think that Ash has it in him for it to be very inspiring.
It's
The
not
fact that
coming
Michael,
out of the dark moment.
yeah, it would be a lot, and I feel like we could get something really great with Ariam. So we're going with Ariam. Oh, goodness. I wish we could have seen more of Lorca versus Giorgio. Don't you? That would have been amazing.
No, because Lorca would have been crushed. Like, Lorca is one of those characters that's so amazing because he never actually goes up against, like, Season 4 Burnham. But Season 4 Burnham would literally floss her legs with Lorca any day. It wouldn't even be a thought. That would just be how she dries off after a shower. And then she'd toss the towel. Giorgio, if Lorca ever had to go up against a full force Giorgio, it would be embarrassing watching a dime try to stand up against $100 bill. And he just looks like a $10 bill because it's a season of quarters. But I really think this is one of those situations where he would have been put in the ground instantly.
So, and this is one of those situations where, once again, I absolutely adore the genre that came up because of the game we are playing, because of the pair that is here, because I genuinely would love to see, for either of these characters, number 7, an animated documentary.
Bagok! Oh, God, but... And they're both
Probably
from the
Giorgio.
mirror universe? Oh, my God.
But Yes, either would be really so fascinating to genuinely see an animated documentary telling the backstory of these characters.
Kevo, what an incredible list. I mean, what you're telling me is I can either get a Prince of Egypt about Lorca or a Giorgio Goes West. And I think I'm going to have to give it to Giorgio. There are, in fact, no cats in America.
I'm also Team Giorgio all the way.
Ugh, no cats in our mirror universe.
They ate them all. Just like Saru.
I killed all the cats.
She did.
Oh, bless her. Yeah, no. And I mean,
Poor pussy.
for as hot as Daddy is, it was going to be Giorgio.
Geez, good luck, Mama. You gotta. This is literally stacked against you, but good luck.
So 154 is mockumentary. So we could see either a mockumentary about the Bridge Trio or Arium.
Wait, so you're telling me I can either watch a mockumentary about Lower Decks or one person? No, obviously, I'm voting Lower Decks.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not lower, but they're the equivalent of lower. One of the things that I really enjoy about Disco is that I truly know all these characters' names. I truly know the Lower Bridge characters' names, and they really are characters that they made sure that we know outside of the main, like, super important cast.
Totally.
But they are still secondary. They are still the other Bridge crew. So they kind of are lower decky, and yeah, mockumentary featuring these guys would be really amazing.
All right.
Goodness, but them versus Giorgio.
Well, I mean, it depends on the depends on the genre. If the
That's
genre
what's
is
great
like
about this version of the game.
if it's buddy comedy, then it can't be a Giorgio. But if it's like Go Ask
it can
Alice
still be-
personal diary, well then it's
can
gonna be
still
Giorgio.
It can still be Giorgio if it's buddy comedy. There's no.
Listen, I was just at the New York International Auto Show, which is like literally one of my favorite days of the year. What an incredible opportunity to see the unbelievable things that man has wrought, and like the incredible examples of engineering. And this woman came up to me and she said to me, "If you have any questions about this Infinity, just ask." And I said, "What's your name?" And she said, "I'm Alice." And I said, "So you're saying I can just go ask Alice?" And she walked away from me disgusted.
Yeah, as she should. You are terrible.
She was so insulted at her place of work.
That's not even the worst thing anyone said to her to that day. I am certain.
I didn't ask her if grits were up or whatever.
I know. Insane.
I
Fine.
don't know, she should
You think
get
you're
back to some
funny.
Brady's. I'm very funny. So Kevo, what's the caddy?
233 slow cinema.
What it lists is the films of Tarkovsky, so like Solaris, Stalker, Mirror. That would be the most recognizable, I think. Another one that they give is Melancholia by Von Trier.
It is a
Um,
genre of art cinema characterized by a style that is minimalist, observational, and with little or no narrative.
That last part is really horseshit though, because all of the films that they list have very complex narratives. So I want to leave that part a little bit out.
There is no Lars von Trier film with a complex narrative. There is a Lars von Trier film with a paragraph of description and a lot of penis torture in between.
Yeah.
Oh man, but Willem Dafoe looked so good in that movie.
Dancer in the Dark has a pretty...
You know what? And Dancer in the Dark is such an incredible example of where it is so truly within exactly the tropism of his own films.
Yeah.
And yet the ways it is starkly contrasted, I think, has to do with the development of the voice it was focused around.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that Bjork is a bigger planet than he is.
Yeah.
So even if it's his vision for making a film, it's her film, and therefore all of his von Trierisms sort of become a parody trope. Yeah, well, and it becomes like Bjork is like, look at this silly guy who likes to do these things. I can sing over them and make them beautiful because they're terrible.
Yeah, it's
and
like Bjork singing "Row, row, row your boat." It just automatically becomes a 35-part orchestra.
right.
Yeah,
I would actually, I like this. I want to keep this genre. I like this genre.
same,
It's got to be Giorgio.
Same. Without
I
question.
mean, yeah, it's.
Before I knew he was a Nazi, I saw like every Von Trier film. I mean,
Oh yeah, me too.
Same.
It was actually, I didn't realize how bad things were with him until Melancholia, where I was just like, you're just trying to like find the most complex way to kill these women. And then it turned out that this was his processing his divorce film. And it really was that. This is just his fantasy of how he would kill his wife, which is smash a planet into her. And then from there, I realized just how absolutely horrible he is.
Full
and Kirsten
Chewbacca.
Dunst died on stage.
I should have realized at Dogville, but I just found something so charming
No,
about
Dogville is so brilliantly directed. It
Yeah.
almost makes all of the weird bad messages. It's why Nicole Kidman said yes.
I know.
the
It's my
aesthetics of
my
that
favorite
film.
role for her is besides Chase Meridian.
Honestly, I'm weird, and I still think her best role was The Hours.
Oh God, Nico.
I know I'm problematic, but I really love Philip Glass.
I at least
I
thought you were
believe you
gonna
meant to say the other.
Others?
That's that is what I thought you were going to say.
No, I'm a big Philip Glass guy. I really like The
That
Hours.
is true.
It's not okay. What do we got? What's Zora versus Georgia? These two.
It
should
was
be able to have a
Philippa, right? We
conversation.
were going Philippa on
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Okay. It felt natural and felt like where we were going.
Philip
And
on.
it kind of feels it is inevitable that the two greatest characters introduced from this show would go head
Yep.
to head.
Yep. I'm
It's
so
sad that-
bummed they never got to talk.
Number 165 is mystery film. I don't know if we feel we already hit too close to that and we want me to spin again or we want to adjust.
No, I actually love the idea of Giorgio as the lead of a mystery film that I understand. But what Zora offers is an unexpected protagonist. We often see new consciousnesses depicted as the villains of things like mystery films, depicted as, that's the sound of inevitability, Mr. Anderson. That Agent Smith of it. But what if Zora was the protagonist of one of these films? And not like in a Memento way, not like in a, is he actually the good guy kind of way? But like, what if Zora were given the opportunity to play the role of, like a Miss Marple, or a truly competent detective in the style of anybody that the bad detectives are based on in Murder by Death? I think I have to give it to Zora, and I think it's because she offers the possibility of pushing mystery to some new heights that I think a lot of filmmakers would love to see it be.
Took the words all right out of my mouth. And this part of this is it's the character. It's not what do we want to see Michelle Yeoh in. The actor who is voicing Zora is fantastic, but has not really been given enough that I'm like, I know she could crush it acting in a mystery. Michelle Yeoh can literally do any film she wants to do. So that if it was the actors, we would be having an entirely different conversation. Zora, I'm waiting for Zora to have a really compressed version of Data's storyline, and for Zora, yes, to be made a member of Starfleet. How are you both a ship in Starfleet and a commissioned officer of some kind?
Great question. It'd be like Mjolnir becoming a member of the Avengers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What is your what kind of life form are you? Are you paid? There's so many questions to ask. Do you have autonomy to go places on your own? This is what I care about with Zora, and this is what I care about with the character. And what Nico points to is a slice of what that could look like, where what is her life like doing one thing? Not being the end-all be-all for these people, not being both the place where they congregate and also the person who looks shit up for them, apparently. Guys, come on. But what is her life when she has to do a specific thing and be in a specific role and be in a recognizable set of circumstances that we know? I think it would just be so fascinating. I love her so much.
She's such an
And I
incredible
mean,
character.
I think, I felt like that was inevitable. I love Giorgio. I'm really excited for Section 31, but I feel like Giorgio is a character that you need to use a gentle touch with, because that is very true of funny sociopath mass murderers. There's only so much of a redemption story there that you can do. There's only so much examination before it starts to get a little bit too heavy for something like Star Trek. So I'm not sure how much longevity there is for that. And I feel like there is still so much longevity and potential for Zora and Nico, yes.
It can only be so much Jeffrey Dahmer till it's just a bummer.
I mean, kind of, a little bit. For as much as it's, Michelle Yeoh, who we love, it is what it is. And, to bring it back around to the episode discussion as well, as far as Zora as a character, I think one of the things that I am most fascinated by this season, this story, where this is going, and this idea of the progenitors being the story, will that end up connecting back to Zora? Will that end up connecting back to so many of the other, what is the essence of synthetic life stories that we have been getting from Disco?
Wow, yeah, and hard.
Everything with Gray and Gray's synthetic body, and all of these things. There's so many directions it can go. I hope it ultimately doesn't lead anywhere too definitive, because there's still so many miles left to go on Star Trek. But I like the idea that we are, much like the initial jump to the 32nd century, continuing to push boundaries of what we can do with Star Trek.
Kevo, I think one of the things that you really point to here is the definite indefiniteness of Star Trek. It's going to go on forever, because it's the idea of the future. It's the idea of forever. It's the idea of tomorrow, boldly going where no one's gone before. And your concerns with whenever Star Trek does put too fine a point on stuff, it's because it takes the possibility of more away. Hearing you talk about the progenitors and the progeniting of the progenitors being that somebody wanted to do this cute moment, and it wound up being so important that people couldn't stop talking about it. That's so important to consider, because something we talk about a lot is the question always poses better answers than the answer can pose a question. So they have to be very careful about what answers they give to the progenitors. But if there's one show that I think loves to give half answers in a way that make me both want to bite it and hug it at the same time, it is Star Trek Discovery. The potentiality of this storyline, when they didn't know it was going to be the finale, is actually sometimes better, because if they had thought, well, we have to wrap everything up, it would lose some of that Discovery open-ended magic. And so, while I'm sad that they didn't know that their final moments were being filmed as their final moments, I'm glad that a Star Trek masterclassman like Jonathan Frakes was at the direction table wherever this winds up going for this season, and that really gives it a beautiful feel. It also means that he has ended the two earliest starting Star Trek shows by appearing in the finale of Enterprise and directing the finale of Discovery.
Oh my god, I hope Frakes shows up. I hope we see an old man Riker, just for a second, doing something that they find in the future, because why not? Why the hell not? He is the was it Sam Waterston who ended up being on the most Law and Orders?
Yeah.
Or was it Bunch? I don't remember which one.
He's Nightwing. He is the not the original Batman. He's the second Batman's little man. So he is Nightwing, and he is so necessary to the function of this franchise.
God bless.
Let's go be Teen Titans. Anyway, final thoughts, everybody. I've said everything I could possibly hope to say about a show that means so much to me. You know, I think 3 of the best Star Treks of all time are on the air right now with Discovery, Lower Decks, and my favorite, Strange New Worlds. It's really an incredible opportunity to be a fan of something so brave, so creative, and at times so flawed. But the flaws are part of what helps it grow into a better program. You have to make those micro tears to grow those muscles bigger. And Michael Burnham has the biggest muscles of any Starfleet captain yet. So they're doing something right. How do you guys feel about this first 2 episodes of Disco, a show that really has reshaped the franchise toward the future?
Plus, they've given us so much since the mid 60s. They've been giving us stuff. You know, you guys were talking about how the TOS villains, or you know, the conflict is all based around godlike beings and beings from another plane, which is so reminiscent of what sci-fi was thinking about at the time. You know, hard sci-fi was not as big a thing. We were kind of just coming into a better understanding of the fundamentals of science, and people weren't quite ready to write about that, and that has come a long way. We still got a lot of that godlike being stuff in early TNG. That's why I always bring up
The face.
Yeah, exactly. Which he has a name, which I think is ridiculous. It's like Nemagal or something, because it's a mulligan backwards. But
I mean, Q is
Q, exactly.
literally a space
a
god.
timeless god. Yes.
The traveler
Yep.
who winds up,
Bringing
project,
Wesley, and now he's got Spurge, or whichever,
and then Cisco being
the emissary.
emissary.
He's in
and
the Celestial Temple.
Yeah. So I mean, that's always been a huge part of Trek, but like the TNG gave us just pretty much a rolling episodic sort of update with better, you know, again, a better understanding of science. With Deep Space Nine, we planted in one place, but we did some hugely important metaphorical stories. We had war, we had occupation, we had religious overtones, we had a much deeper understanding of alien bodies. Voyager gave us the voyage home, what it would be like to have Federation ideals completely divorced from the Federation. Enterprise existed. You know, we've had great films.
Yeah, but Scott Bakula could make you gay.
Yeah,
You mean my dad?
Your dad, Trip Tucker.
Dad,
Your
it's
dad.
me, Trip Tucker. You're a good boy. Let me take my shirt off and get my foot rubbed back to Paul.
All right, well then I'm going to take my shirt off as well, and we're just going to stare at T'Pol awkwardly from across the room.
We got the Kelvin timeline to kind of try and update a lot of the visual stylings, if nothing else. We've gone everywhere with Star Trek. We've done comedy now. We've done children's show.
Yeah, 2 great
and
animated examples.
You can't do all that and win 100% of the time. And in this case, this is one of those things where, like, you can't live a full human life and win all the time. If you are not making mistakes and then learning from them and growing, you suck and are boring, and you're not actually learning anything. So,
And you're lying to me. That's not the truth.
yeah,
You've made
exactly. And
mistakes.
you're also a fucking liar. So we pick which
That's
one you
not
want.
the truth, Starfleet.
So, you know, this incredible franchise just keeps doing stuff. Now we've got Strange New Worlds. Now we've got Discovery. Now we've got Section 31. We have Picard. It just keeps going. And all of those shows have given us different things, not just genre bending, but concept bending, character bending. And we're off to a great start with Discovery. I'm very excited to check out Prodigy. I cannot wait for this to come back.
My husband gives his maybe best performance ever on Prodigy. He is literally the funniest man in the world, and
Jason Matsukas.
he is as Jankum Pog. He is, I think, one of the best things in Star Trek. I just think he is so funny and so handsome, and I assume he's Greek. He looks like
He
every.
is.
Oh yeah, he looks like
Jason
every
Matsukas,
Greek
he's
cousin I
very
have.
Greek.
Yeah,
You can find of this in French if you want it. So good
and
luck.
I am I assumed Matsukas was Greek, but
Yes.
you know, you never want to overclaim because he's so funny. But you know, if you don't, obviously I'm going on a little too much about an actor I think is great. I fell in love with him when I first saw him as Rafi on The League, and I've never looked back. But one of the things that makes Prodigy special is everybody gives a unique voice performance. There are bigger and smaller names, but the truth is, you know, Kate Mulgrew's performance as the Janeway hologram is one of the most gripping, incredible performances in a Star Trek show, because she remembers how to be Janeway and she expresses it in a way you've never seen it before. It's unfortunate that Picard got to be a live action show with his name in the title. And Janeway's Picard moment is so undersung because it is the same level of nuanced, clever, and thoughtful performance. And I just don't think she gets enough credit because she was kind of mean to Jerry Ryan, who was like one of the hottest women to ever exist. So, just want to say, Prodigy, everybody go check it out. It's got a lot of mistakes, but it's worth watching.
I think once we have a better idea of when it's going to drop on Netflix, season 2, we'll probably do some sort of coverage on it. And I'm excited to give it a rewatch now that I am even more experienced. When we watched it the first time, we hadn't made it through Voyager, and now we have, and it was quite a voyage. And I am super stoked.
So, I cannot wait to go over all of this and more. One of the things that I'm so excited about isn't just Star Trek and the future of Star Trek as a franchise as it relates to us, but TK, you blasted my brain apart with some news that I am shattered to pieces. I am Rene Aubergenois falling down in that high school classroom. May 26th. 2026, Mando and Grogu.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of updates on the big board to different stuff. Mando and Grogu has a release date. That is correct.
I am beyond words over the possibility that this little character this thing that literally Disney was like, if you do it, it might ruin Star Wars. You know that, right? And Jon Favreau was like, no, I think you're wrong. I think it's going to save the world, and it did.
And not only that, but also an update.
She's done.
She's finished. And what a finish.
Oh,
she
she
couldn't finish without giving us even more wild news updates, I guess. Within days of wrapping, we had to have another big casting announcement. So goodness gracious. What don't we know about this show? I have to imagine that there is a bunch of Daredevil Born Again news that we don't even know yet.
I am, and part of what has me very taken is that people keep being like, well, look at all the outdoor shots. So, these people aren't going to be in the show because there aren't more outdoor shots of them. And I want to be like, no, I think Claire filmed every single scene of season 2 of Daredevil in a hospital. Like,
yeah, exactly.
The unlimitedness of Daredevil as a format is so incredible. I love that you brought this up. But if I can say something that I am like piss my pants excited for, I was a little slow to pick up on the show, but I think more about where Beacon 23 left me than I think about where a lot of shows left me. Lena Headey. Did I say that one right, or did I say the wrong? Oh,
Headey.
Okay, Lena Headey is the one who was in Aida. I did that again. Okay. Oops. So she is something else. Every co-star in this is beyond words, but by far the greatest performance in this show for me is Stephen Root. I only hope we get to see him again. I am over the moon. Is that this Sunday or next Sunday, Kevo?
That premieres tomorrow.
Unbelievable. I am over the moon. Can't wait.
Yeah. Super stoked. A lot of really awesome things coming up. Mark Cyborg T had brought up that he thinks that the Celestial Toymaker versus Q would be very interesting, which brings up the reciprocity between Star Trek and Doctor Who that has often existed. The fact that there was almost an on-screen crossover between them back in 2005. And so now who knows what might happen in the future now that Doctor Who is coming back, which is another really exciting thing we have that we're going to start covering next month. Maybe our bracketeering for that one will be something to do with Doctors versus Starfleet Captains.
Ooh, nice.
That's sexy as shit.
Right. And Versus all in good fun, everyone. Versus
yeah.
all in good fun.
No matter who wins, we all do. So
Exactly. So we have Doctor Who coming up. That's why I've got up in the corner. I don't know if you saw X's for Sci-Fi. We've got a really awesome season of science fiction coming up. Star Wars coming up. We have Eurovision coming up, and everyone always looks like weird space aliens in their music videos. So
the songs this year are not all unique, but every performance is. And that's this year for me. Last year the songs were all one of a kind. This year I think every song kind of sounds the same. But my God, do they all? Everybody's setting themselves on fire for attention. It's insane.
I don't think they all sound the same, but I definitely have some very strong opinions, especially about Sand. But I'm gonna save that for when we actually talk.
And you know
I'm
what?
Stoked.
We might have made fun of the Panini Press, but not only did she win, but we're
She
still
won.
talking about.
What the hell do we know?
All right.
Awesome, and it sounds like Mark is in for Captains versus Doctors, so we're gonna work on that.
Until we come back tomorrow, Kevo, what are you excited about?
You guys.
That's cool.
I'm excited. I'm excited for all the stuff that we have coming up. We have an awesome team. I love what we do. I'm excited to see how our drag race continues to pan out. I'm just super stoked. And should I also do my thing? Should I say my thing? Should I say you can find me at Teak, what about you? What are you excited about?
I'm really excited about Beacon 23, man. That was one of my big ones that I wanted to watch. I also, we should talk about it at some point. I have gotten through the first half of Palm Royale. I think you guys should watch it. It's really cool.
Which one is Palm Royale?
It's Kristen Wiig, Allison Janney.
Yeah. Yep,
Ooh,
already
enough
there.
said.
On,
Yeah.
on in.
Are there
Already-
more people in it? Or is it
Yes.
just them?
Nope, there are more people. You know who's in it? You know who's in it? You know who's in it? Kaya
Jason
Gerber.
Mantzoukas? Who's Kaya Gerber?
She's Cindy Crawford's daughter who
Daughter.
just judged
Yeah.
Drag Race.
Yes, but if I can, the reviews for it were uneven, and the one thing all the reviews said were like, "Listen, the show is uneven, but if this show is for you, you're just going to be stupid for it."
Yeah,
So
and it really is for me. I think it might be for you guys too. It gives me something not dissimilar to Only Murders in the Building
I'm already
in
in.
an entirely different way, but just I feel like you'll get what I'm saying.
I'm so
Anyway, I would love to talk about it, but in the meantime, Beacon 23 I'm really excited about. I can't wait to get the rest of Trek back, like Strange New Worlds in Section 31. And yeah, man, I mean, it's not just the songs and the event, but Eurovision always comes at a great time of year, and so I'm just excited. Anyway, we'll have fun. Talk to me about all of it at TK Elemental. Nico, what you got?
Kaya Gerber might be one of the most genuine laughs I have ever given on this entire program. I was not expecting you to say that is who that was. Thank
yeah, it's
you.
a Gerber baby.
That's
Yeah.
intense.
And they're going to put her, she's going to go in the ring with Ronan Farrow.
On this show, I am
I
so in.
wish.
No, really. I just think it'd be really fun if somebody punched Ronan Farrow. I really,
Especially.
really could not. I feel like I say it every week, and it's so silly. But I am counting down the seconds till Knuckles. I am so rarely excited about something like I am about platformer overall canon. But if there was something that wasn't on the board that has really truly changed my life, Midnight Suns, the Marvel comic video game, has kind of given me back both video games and comics. So I thought I would just be playing rhythm games for the rest of my life, but no. Outside of the worlds of Final Fantasy and The Legend of Zelda, there are other things, not just rhythm games. So I am super excited to play those. And that's going to be something we talk about in the next couple of weeks that I'm super excited about. But until then, we're going to talk about literally, guys, I did not expect that ending of Drag Race last night. I was thrilled because it reminded me that you can still surprise me. And I was rather impressed.
I am shocked that a reality television show program actually followed its professed format for the first time in seasons.
That is quite literally how I'm feeling.
So come check that out tomorrow.
But otherwise, if you want to check me out, you guys should go to Come On Everybody next week in Brooklyn. That's a week from tonight. We're going to be over in Brooklyn, hanging out, being awesome. I'm going to be doing some sexy shit with the guitar. You definitely want to check it out. It's brought to you by 10 Yards Clothing, who are some of the most unbelievable designers. Sam is a genius. And the incredible lineup of queens I am with. It's unbelievable. I am so beyond lucky to be a drag king standing next to these drag queen excellences. And definitely come check that out. Come On Everybody in Brooklyn next week. It's going to be fucking sick. But otherwise, if you want to check me out on all the soch, it's Nico Action. That's NICOACTION. Except if you want to check out my music, add the word music. It's really convenient. You can check out incredible recordings like my version of the TOS theme, the Lower Decks theme, and the new Next Gen theme mix I did. So check those out. We will talk to you guys soon. But there's a couple of things you got to do. Number one, you got to like, comment, and subscribe, because otherwise fairies just fade away, right? But the other three things, number one, stay safe. It's a crazy world out there. But if you can stay safe, then you can be brave. And if you can be brave, we can't wait to see you evolve daily, because who you're going to be tomorrow is going to be so amazing, and we can't wait to be there. So until then, do those things. Live long and prosper, like the man says. And we're going to do our Starfleet best to bring you more amazing content, and we'll see you.